welcome to Doors and Corners, a sci-fi and fantasy film commentary podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Zach. And every Friday, we sit down and watch a science fiction or fantasy film and give our 2 cents on its quality, production, story, and trivia.
We watch the film together, but without sounds or visuals provided to avoid copyright issues. But if you do have access, we encourage you to join us and follow along.
Here, we like to keep things casual, and there may be discussions of spoilers or sensitive materials or language. But we do try and keep things clean and family-friendly. Ultimately, the goal of this podcast is to create the experience of us all sitting down and watching this movie together.
So get ready to hit that play button, because we're about to get started.
Damn doors and corners, I mean, that's where they get you.
Welcome back to Doors and Corners. I'm Brian.
I'm Zach.
And I'm Patrick.
Patrick is back for a special event. We've been teasing this the last 2 or 3 episodes. We are back to Star Wars, everybody. Prequel trilogy time.
Yes, we have decided that we are not doing release dates. We are not doing the hacked up Lucas method, or even the really weird Sam Witwer Clone Wars series first method. We are just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, possibly even 7, 8.
Misa loves Star Wars. Misa, Bongo loves Star Wars.
Yeah, where are we going to put
And we're canceled.
Because where are we going to put Solo in that lineup?
I would put Solo in between original trilogy and sequel trilogy because I actually really like Solo. I will defend that movie. It's not perfect, but it is a solid 7 out of 10 film.
So you wouldn't do it in between 3 and 4?
No, why?
Because that's when it takes place.
Yeah, but we started with Rogue One. I'm just saying I think we want to push off the sequel trilogy for a while, but we still want our Star Wars fix, so we can do the Clone Wars animated movie, and we can do Solo.
Oh, that exists, doesn't it?
That exists.
So that TV series has highs that are really high. That is a bad movie.
So it's the first time Dave Filoni was ever directing. It was supposed to be a 2-part series premiere for on TV, and then they're just like, hey guys, let's release this as a movie.
Oh,
last minute, and they had to re-edit
it's so
the whole
rough.
So
thing.
bad.
Yeah, it's if you want a shock.
I mean, Mace Windu's awesome in it.
Gosh, watch that and then immediately go and watch the last 3 episodes of Clone Wars, just back to back, and you won't even believe it's the same
awful.
team. But it's
Right.
Yeah. But so we're gonna do just episode 1, 2, and 3 here in a row. We're gonna be putting these out for the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith, which we will get to in 2 more weeks. Excited about that. But we really quickly. Do you mind, Zach? If we can quickly do a 2-minute version of kind of where this film sits in our kind of Star Wars, because we're all big Star Wars fans, but kind of where the prequel trilogy landed for us, and where we were when they came out, and kind of just what do you think?
Well, I remember this movie because I was very young. The youngest of the gentlemen sitting here. I was only 8 years old when this movie came out.
It's a baby.
And I was extremely excited because I grew up with Star Wars. I love Star Wars. And the advertising on this movie is a whole other level. There is an entire documentary on YouTube. I didn't get to watch all of it. I watched some of it and a couple summaries of it. Just about the advertising for Star Wars Episode 1. There were news stories a year and a half before the movie even came out about people camping out in front of a movie theater ready for this movie to come out.
Oh, yeah.
There were soda cans. It's just it is ingrained in my memory as a cultural milestone. This great movie to usher in the next generation of filmmaking. This was going to reframe movie history as we head into the 21st century. That ended up being The Matrix.
That is, unfortunately for this movie, another movie came out in 99.
And it's insane, the cultural impact of this movie, especially at that time. It was everywhere. We're talking Pepsi paid for its advertising more than they spent for the rights to advertise Star Wars Episode 1. more than they spent on their entire advertising budget for like the previous year. And so I was stoked for this movie. I was so excited. My dad was more hesitant, and my sister Shayna, this was actually my first memory of her kind of telling BS stories that I realized she's lying to make herself sound cool. And like I remember seeing this movie in theaters, and it was, as bad as the movie is, it was kind of a revelation to me. I'm like, this is incredible. I love Star Wars. Like,
Nice.
more than ever. And
Awesome.
the second one did eventually teach me that movies can be bad.
What about you, Pat?
My brother and I went to see this in theaters. We actually, if I remember correctly, so 99. This would have been his senior year. And it was finals week, and basically we both only had one final that day, and so we left at like 10 something. And this is before booking your movie time ahead of time. This is, show up and see what's available. And so we went and watched it in theaters. And yeah, it was a really cool experience. My brother's favorite Star Wars character is Darth Maul because of this movie. I was a huge fan before this movie came out, and I was a huge fan even after this movie came out. Star Wars is my jam. More so than basically all others. I'll tell you, Fallout after their first season did pretty well, and they're starting to edge closer to Star Wars, but Star Wars still takes it.
Really? That's not the franchise I would have guessed.
Because lightsabers. Let's be honest.
I mean, that was a pretty good first season of Fallout. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I was so Pat, I'm like, I think I have 1 year on you. You and I are really close, but
that sounds about right.
Yeah, we're basically the same generation, and I mean, I was a senior when this movie came out, and yeah, this was a group of friends, and I can say this now because all my teachers are retired. We full on ditch school, made up some excuse, and went.
Yes.
And, I mean, I had to camp out of Olympus Point Theater in Roseville, California. Standing in line for hours to like get close enough to the front of the line to get a good seat. And I mean, leading up to this, you're talking about marketing, Zach, and it's so true because I remember. I was so pumped for this movie. A buddy of mine who was like the one guy that had like really like it was high speed at the time, but like, a cable modem connection. And we like, he knew like the site where you could get Duel of the Fates, the audio file, like, before the CD came out of the soundtrack, and listening to that thing, and then finding the little postage stamp photo, like not photo but like video file you could download of the Duel of the Fates trailer, which was such a big deal. I am I think it was Meet Joe Black that I went and bought a ticket to that movie, even though I was not old enough to see that movie, but to see that because the trailer came out. I don't know why they attached it to not a nerd film at all. But I know that like the numbers of that movie are like artificially inflated in the box office history because people went and saw it just to see the trailer for this movie. I mean, all that stuff. So I was raised in the original trilogy. When we do get to the original trilogy, I am one of those weirdos that like is a hardcore original trilogy guy. Like I can tell you every line of dialogue that's different. The first time I watched special editions in the theaters, I remember before these came out, the original trilogy came out, the special editions in theaters, and that was such a big deal because I had never seen Star Wars in theaters, and I was already like in the theater. I was like loved them, and also like every change was like, why did they what I was already starting to get to the point where I could nitpick that stuff, which is either annoying or awesome depending on who you are. And
Buddy Duddy.
But this movie, I think I saw this movie 7 or 8 times. And that actually was part of the problem for me. I kept having friends who wanted to go see it and take me along. And I was falling asleep in the theater by the time I saw this, like the 4th or 5th time in theaters. Because when I walked out the first night, the ending is so strong with Duel of the Fates and the Darth Maul lightsaber fight. I I was just so like jazzed, and you come out like, and then you go to see it again, and you're like, something is wrong with this movie. Like I can't even, like I wasn't old enough to be able to pin it down at the time, but I could just tell that it wasn't quite. Anyways, we'll get into it as we watch it. But I both was so excited about this film, and it was such a big deal at the time. I mean, this was that summer, but at the same time, it holds a weird place in my heart because I think it's an amazing film in many, many ways, but I also don't like it. I'll leave it at that.
Okay. It's really interesting that you say that way. Like the first time you came out of it, the ending was strong enough that like it took you the second time to realize that there was something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That was almost my exact experience with The Last Jedi. The first time I saw it, there were things in the theater that I sat there and I went, I didn't like that, but there were actually parts of the ending that I genuinely did enjoy and love. And I remember walking out of the theater, and I just had this feeling. I'm like, oh, you know what? I really liked when they did this, and I wanted to feel that same level of excitement that I felt walking out of Force Awakens. But in the back of my head, I was just going, something was really off there. Something was wrong there, and I think that Last Jedi, in terms of its writing, is much worse than Episode 1. But it's funny that you say that, because that was my exact experience with the next most controversial Star Wars movie.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting with the prequel trilogy. I don't feel like there's as much controversy about it. I think most people that I know will acknowledge there are issues. And I do think that the order, it's a little bit. I mean, most people list Revenge of the Sith right as the top of the prequels, and then you get the whole is Phantom Menace or Clone Wars better? I think there's a definitive answer. I believe we're all on the same pages about that.
Oh,
Clone Wars.
Oh
is,
goodness, yes.
Or sorry, not even Clone Wars. Attack of the Clones. I apologize. Clone Wars was good. Attack of the Clones is bad. But this movie is still very rough in many ways. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. George Lucas is an amazing creative mind. He's not a good director.
I dissent.
You dissent? You think George Lucas is a good director?
He was. If you look at the way that the prequel trilogy is directed, okay, man has an amazing creative and technical mind. His way of shooting things is incredible.
Now, really fast, Zach. What is the standard for a good director? By the way, like when we look at like the definition of a great director, you know what that list is, right? Go ahead. All right.
He is a good director, circa 1985. His directing standard stayed there.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know how to direct a movie that isn't from the 70s or early 80s. So he's directing his actors and his scripts like they're in the 70s and 80s science fiction world.
Yeah.
When science fiction had evolved so much when this movie, and especially when Attack of the Clones came out. And the acting and dialogue are like they came right out of the late 1970s science fiction. But the rest of it was so improved that it's a dissonant tone between them.
Yeah.
I think he was a better technological visionary in terms of how much he pushed forward the technology of filmmaking. I don't necessarily think he was a good director. I think the challenge is when he got to the sequel trilogy, there wasn't quite as much to do in terms of pushing the envelope. He already pushed it. So in the original trilogy, he set the tone. And so then I feel like with these, it was kind of, actually, here's a great example. The first trilogy, right, is the first outing, the old saying that name a better sequel than the original. I would say this was this was his sequel trilogy, even though it was technically a prequel. This was his sophomore year, as it were. And I mean, I guess here's the other way I look at it. If you take George Lucas out of Star Wars, he's an awful director. I think, or something he didn't create himself. Whereas you could put Spielberg's in something that he didn't build himself and he would do great with it. I think that's the thing, right? At a certain point, the director isn't necessarily the creator, the writer. There's so many other facets to it.
Yeah.
And again, since George wrote Star Wars, I think he was a good director. But then I think as time went on, I agree with Zach that he kind of fizzled out.
Well, and I read
His
really fast. Let me just say, I there's a lot of documentation about this. The biggest reason that Star Wars worked, and not that George Lucas doesn't deserve a tremendous amount of credit, but that movie was saved in editing, and he was not the editor. His cut of that movie, and many people have corroborated this, was not good. It wasn't until his wife and a few other really key figures came in and cut it together in a way that gave it the energy and momentum. It would not have been a hit if he hadn't been saved by editors who had a better vision for flow and story and timing than he did.
I could buy that.
And again, I don't mean that in any way to take. I mean, George, I will defend George. I think he gets a lot of hate that's not deserved. I think that he is part, not entirely, but part of where the sequels are missing is they're missing some of that George touch, which is a very important part of Star Wars. But I also think that it's very fair to criticize him where he deserves it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not somebody who sits there and says, I personally believe that these movies would have been much better if George Lucas wasn't so annoying as a human being. Do you know why? He is a micromanager. He loves Star Wars. And he offered this movie to 3 different directors. He said, please direct this movie instead of me. Because he knows, and he's even said this, he knows that he's not a strong director.
But it was Spielberg and Ron Howard. Who was the third one?
Robert Zemeckis was his first choice.
Oh, any of those guys would have made an interesting Star Wars movie.
But Ron Howard and Robert Zemeckis have both said that they knew that they would not be able to make a movie that they thought was good while under the incredibly watchful eye of George Lucas.
Oh, yeah.
Spielberg was just going through stuff. He was doing Private Ryan. He was going for passion projects. He was past this type of thing. But I think that these movies would have been much better if you had found a director who was willing to sit behind Lucas, or let Lucas sit behind him, I should say. But unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things that, and there's a lot of people like this that are, they're visionaries, they're powerhouses of creativity and pushing the envelope, but they're really not good collaborators. And I know that George he struggles as a collaborator. So, but let's go ahead and get going. We're going to be talking.
Yeah, we should get going.
Another 2 hours and 20 minutes here, roughly. So, you want to give us just the quick highlights, Zach, before we hit play?
Of course. So, the quick highlights. We are going to be looking at, I'm sure that this is common knowledge to the majority of human beings, but whatever. This is Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. The third worst titled Star Wars movie, in my opinion. Came out in 1999. Rated PG, of all things. 2 hours and 16 minutes long. Directed by George Lucas. Written by George Lucas. And starring Ewan McGregor, Liam Neeson, Natalie Portman, Jake Lloyd, and Ian McDermott.
Who was the guy who played Senator
and
Valoran?
Ahmed Best.
The guy who played Chancellor Valoran. He's a...
Chancellor Valorum.
He's like
Terrence Stamp, dude.
Terrence Stamp. I was about to say, yeah. I knew there was another.
Wait,
great,
Ray Park. How could I have
Ray
not
Park.
mentioned Ray Park, even though he doesn't have a single line in the movie?
Yeah, I do love that we got Terrence Stamp in this film. It's just like he has a very small role, but I love that man.
Same.
So, all right,
we so ready to go, yeah?
Yeah. Oh God, we will talk about Jar Jar. So we are watching this on Disney Plus. So this is the version with the updated Yoda. Was there any other big change in this that they went CG on Yoda? Was there anything else? I can't remember.
I think they did some mild touch-ups of some of the visual effects, especially in regards to the Gungans. And I want to say they updated the mouth movements of the Nemoidians, but that could just be my imagination.
Okay. But like the big thing was that they got rid of the creepy puppet Yoda.
Yeah. There was an attempt.
I mean, I appreciate
Once
them
they
going
once
puppet.
they had him
but-
doing yeah. Once they had Yoda doing flips in Attack of the Clones, they were like, "Oh, there's a better way."
Well, what's funny is the scenes he's in this movie. They could have totally done a puppet Yoda, but they just went too young. You know, it was like Yoda, a little too much of that Botox.
No, not Botox.
Aw.
This was Yoda on Ozempic.
Oh,
You know what I mean? It's just like, this is only supposed to be like 15 years earlier or something like that. Yeah.
What? From what?
Oh no, sorry, not 15. How early would this be from? Empire
This
Strikes
is
Back?
supposed to be
Like 20?
from The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be 35 years.
35 years. I guess yeah.
I mean, at that
Lucas
point,
likes
he's still like 800 years old. So what's
Yeah.
what's a couple decades at that point? Honestly,
Okay, like it's 20 years between Revenge of the Sith and New Hope. Okay, it's 1 to 2 years between New Hope and Empire, and then it's 3.5 years to 4 years between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, and it's 10 years between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones.
Is Luke supposed
I
to
did
be
that in a really weird order.
okay?
Luke
but
is not in this movie.
Well, no, I was gonna say I always thought for some reason I thought Luke was supposed to be 18 in New Hope, but yes, he was 20.
He's supposed to be 19.
19. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
He's 19 in
let's
that year.
get this show on the road. So we are going to be hitting that play button in 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah.
Fox fanfare.
Oh man.
You can't ruin this,
Oh, dude.
although Disney has. They bought Fox.
I have so badly wanted to see this movie in theaters. I want to see the pod race. I want to hear Duel of the Fates on those speakers. Every single time it's come into theaters again, there's been something that gets in my way, and it's like, I feel like a junkie needing a fix.
Yeah, I debated going to see this when the 3D thing was such a turnoff because that was the big re-release, and I am going to go see Revenge of the Sith though in like 2 weeks when it comes out in theaters again.
Well, I mean, honestly
Yeah?
though, like
Nice.
if I was going to see a Star Wars movie in 3D, I would want it to be this one. The pod race in 3D? Oh.
I mean, so I remember though, and again, I was hyped because again, I had just seen, I think it was 97 is when the special editions came out in theaters. I think that's right.
Correct.
And I mean, that was a big deal, but I had those movies memorized. I mean, sitting in the theater that day in May in 99, this was like, I remember not caring that this opening crawl is a little bit like, really? This is your
Right.
big, opener?
Taxation.
But it was like just the music and the experience of sitting in a theater and hearing this and seeing this. It just was an overdose of happy emotions and
when we waited so
yeah.
long.
Oh yeah, you didn't care. You were so excited, you just didn't care.
I remember seeing.
Yeah,
Force
because it was
Awakens
17 years? No, 16 years between
Yeah,
like
I mean,
actual
and I'm-
time because 83 was
Yeah, and
Return
I'm
of the Jedi.
we're all just young enough. I mean, Pat and I that the original trilogy existed solely on VHS for us.
Yep.
No, me too. We had.
This was the first Star Wars movie we saw in theaters. Yeah.
Yeah, and this was the first Star Wars movie I saw in theaters, and this was the first, like, I remember it vividly because I thought it was so loud, and I put my hands over my ears and stuff because I was like startled by it. Ambassadors. These
I mean-
guys, what do you think of the Nemoidians?
An interesting main nemesis. Even
Mhm.
though they're just puppets, but I will say right off the bat, I want to say, despite my feelings about the Droid Army, this movie is a visual masterpiece. It is just like the world building, the mix of CG and practical. It's a beautiful film in many. I will defend it in that way all day long.
I totally believe that this and Force Awakens did the best at combining practical and visual effects. Because after this, Lucas went way too hard into the CGI.
Yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize how many models are in this. They just assume it's all CG. Lots of models, lots of actual sets, lots of practical. Because, I mean, and this movie was revolutionary as far as like Lucas was once again pushing the envelope so hard in this film. Things that in 99 were just, gosh, I mean, how, T2 was what, 92 91, 92. I want to say. And, Jurassic Park was 93. We were just starting to get CG stuff. And, this is and just for anybody that's wondering, we're probably not going to have a lot of original things to say. This movie's been discussed to death, but this is our take, so enjoy it.
Let's also try and... sorry, continue.
I was just going to say, this movie doesn't get credit, I think, for Jar Jar from a technical point of view, because I think Gollum kind of got so much of the zeitgeist on that. But this movie deserves full credit for that. As much as I find the character annoying, I think it deserves, lots of credit for that. The team at ILM, who, by the way, helped Weta quite a bit. So I'll leave it at that.
No, well, that's actually something that you can actually find the documentation on. Yeah. They decided to go with a CG Gollum because of Jar Jar.
Yeah.
And Gollum ended up being the catalyst that for James Cameron to sit there and say, I can finally make Avatar.
Yeah. So this whole opening sequence,
it's a nice little neat bow.
Yeah. So you're probably going to say keep us on track, and you're absolutely right. So this
no,
opening,
it wasn't keep us on track. I wanted to play a game.
Oh, no.
Spot the reshoot wig on Ewan McGregor.
Oh.
I do.
Right now, you can tell it's his real hair.
Yeah. I did find it interesting that they so quickly, established the fact that Palpatine is behind the scenes pulling the strings here. They didn't keep that a secret at all. Immediately here, and they brought back that like chant from Return of the Jedi, that like the Emperor's theme, that like ooh, I can't do it. But you know what I mean? That little musical cue. This movie does just get right off at the beginning as far as just.
Well, so one of the reasons I like it, that they didn't waste any time spoiling, like any time figuring out who the big bad is it's brand recognition. It's Palpatine. He's no nonsense already.
Yeah.
It immediately establishes the danger.
Yeah. Well, and
it does. It also immediately gives you. Sorry, Brian. This is something I think needs to be added to it. Is that this also establishes a larger villain than these weird toads that are both parodies of, at the time, sitting United States senators.
Yeah. No, I was going to say a version of the same thing. Yeah, because they're not strong villains, but they were never intended to be. They were intended to be quite literally puppets of Palpatine, which they I mean, you believe that, right? Because they're kind of, but they're kind of morons immediately. Just.
No, they are the ultimate evil in the universe, though. They're bureaucrats.
That is true. We will not survive.
George was ahead of his time.
Yeah. I loved this. Just finally, if you had a lightsaber, of course you would do this. This works. I love that lightsabers had heat and were used this way. As a kid,
I love that they made that the Disney Channel symbol with it.
Yeah,
that one time.
That's right.
That's right. They re-edited it to make the Disney Channel symbol.
But man, this where he plunges and starts wiggling it, it's just man, I'm in the theater. I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Right.
The music is so good. John Williams, as usual, just freaking one of the best
knocks it out of the park.
Guys in the business for a reason.
I think that this is his strongest score.
I would agree.
For a Star Wars movie.
Really?
There's reasons to he personally thinks that it's Empire Strikes Back. He thinks that Yoda's theme is the best Star Wars music he ever did. But man, I think that this one set the tone of a generation almost. Not to sound overly cheesy, but holy crap, Duel of the Fates. That was a thing.
See, I would hardcore argue Empire's the Imperial March, the asteroid chase scene, Yoda's theme. The original, there's so many. This is amazing. I'm not trying to say it, but I would go down on the side of Empire on that particular one.
I understand where you're coming from, but you are wrong.
you are free to think that.
I'm a free thinker.
Oh, that's all right. Okay, so can we quickly talk about, and this has been pointed out by many people, again, no original thoughts here, they use Force Dash there, and it's never used again, and it would have come in really handy in a really important sequence later in this film. Caravan of Garbage nailed it so well in their video. Gee, if only there was some power you had demonstrated earlier in this film that would have solved this problem for you.
I personally think that it was
on cooldown.
It was on
cooldown.
I think it was a visual effects and editing problem that they then used lore to explain away as Force Dash.
Yeah. I
You think so?
Obi-Wan just
Yeah.
forgot about it at the end.
Listen,
my. That's sad.
So this was the movie that I was actually going to bring up earlier when we were doing Fifth Element, okay? As you're talking about, can you think of another movie that made as many unique costumes as Fifth Element?
Yeah,
And I
oh,
think it's
this. Yeah.
Because
Well, what's like over 1,000
Episode 3
costumes?
had a whole bunch of... over 1,000 costumes. The other movies, especially Episode 3, had a lot of really interesting costumes in them, but at the end of the day, most of them are CG. These are all practical costumes.
Yeah. Well, the behind-the-scenes work to make this movie was just nutty. I mean, all the departments, and yeah, costumes is obviously one of them. Padme's outfits just by themselves. It's just like she probably had more time and consideration in just her wardrobe than most other films have.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. They were based heavily on ancient Chinese and Mongolian royal garb.
Okay, right here, I do want to say, like, I don't know if it's realistic that this is how boardrooms sound or government rooms sound, but everybody here is so just dry in their delivery. Just
Having sat
totally.
having sat in on meetings between literally what's called the Joint Powers Authority of California as they're discussing $65 billion in money movements related to stuff, it is that dry.
it doesn't make for great film.
It doesn't at all.
I don't know. I think that's a little bit different because they're in the process of being attacked. I guarantee you, like, I've been in, city council meetings, but if the power just went out over all of Northern California, the city council meeting would feel a little bit different.
So, I mean, it was very like, we've lost all communication.
Very matter of fact, very like, this is happening. Okay, we should negotiate.
Yeah, it really sounds like they're reading out teleprompters.
Okay, unpopular opinion.
Go for it.
I like the battle droids.
See, I think the battle
What?
droids are interesting.
What did you say? Oh, battle droids.
Yeah. No, I think that they're kind of silly as a serious threat, but I find them to be interesting, the design.
Yeah. I kind of like that they have a little bit of personality, but they're also morons because you don't want any type of droid that's going to rise up against you. They can't be too smart.
Yeah.
One of the things that they did in both the old lore and canon is establish that the Trade Federation was not allowed to have an army. They were allowed to have a security force against pirates they couldn't use it. They could only use security droids, which is the source of their droid army. And I don't know. I like it. I think it's clever. I think it's useful. It creates a weird, almost zombie-like threat where one or two of them, they don't mean anything. But if there's hundreds, run.
Yeah.
I think that it makes a very useful antagonist for these heroes.
Okay. Why was Obi-Wan just running away there? Why wasn't he like Qui-Gon was like, oh, I just got these guys. Was Obi-Wan just like chilling, or he was just kind of running? It seems so trivial to take those guys out by Qui-Gon.
He was slowing down from force speed.
There was a deleted scene that had him getting attacked by the droids and getting a little bit overwhelmed.
Now, I've heard from a few different sources that originally Obi-Wan was supposed to be either by himself or way more kind of the lead in the opening of this film.
You are correct, sir.
All right.
In the original draft of the script, Qui-Gon Jinn was not supposed to appear until Coruscant. The role of Qui-Gon Jinn was supposed to be Obi-Wan Kenobi by himself. And
So he's schizophrenic.
In a
just
couple of drafts, he went by the name Qui-Gon Jinn, and then there was another Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi gets killed, and so young Qui-Gon takes the name of his master as his.
I've heard that as well.
People.
I'm so glad they didn't do that.
Oh my god! Right.
I love that they just have these
sign that Jar Jar Binks is a secret Sith Lord.
Oh yeah, that was fun to
that
jump.
they have the little rebreathers. The little like underwater things.
I love that they just have them with them. I mean, it's handy for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, here's
actually
the thing,
really
like
that aspect.
Oh no, I'm not saying it's a problem.
I
It's
guess
just
you're-
always. Go ahead.
Sorry, Pat, what were you saying?
Oh, they always have the piece of equipment they need. I guess here's how I look at it. That I wonder if that would work in low oxygen as well.
It probably would.
Like-
I don't think so, because the idea of a rebreather is to take some sort of hydrogen and oxygen based liquid and break it down.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Because they did know they were going to Naboo. They did know Naboo was covered in water. There's some prep time, right?
And so I may have read several dozen, many, possibly hundreds of Star Wars novels, and they do break down the whole like Jedi belt thing and all the little things in there. It's just like, 90% of habitable planets with liquid are going to have water, so they carry the oxygen rebreather because it's like the most likely type of thing, and they try and justify everything.
Yeah.
Like, why do the stormtroopers have grappling hooks in their belt for Luke to steal? They just do.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I will say this movie, and again, pointed out by many other people, this movie definitely plot-wise has quite a few decisions are made and things happen, so the movie can keep going on. It's just kind of a lot of coincidence.
I don't agree with that, actually.
You don't? I think so.
I like the way this movie flows. I think it flows like an old fairy tale, like Lord of the Rings even. I'm not saying it's as good as Lord of the Rings, but it flows very similar to how Lord of the Rings is written. Like, they make a friend. The friend's like, come with me. And then, friend is in trouble, or a fugitive type of thing, and they take him to the leadership, and there's just a whole thing to it. It moves like a classic fairy tale, and I really like that.
Yeah. No,
and then there's several things that people have pointed out, Caravan of Garbage Front, because I know that you watched that, are just like, why are they doing this way? They could just easily do it this way. Why doesn't Qui-Gon do the pottery? So I'm like, these guys aren't thinking critically about how world building in something like this actually works. There are certain rules that they're sticking to, and there's logical reasons why characters don't do stuff. It's just not clearly stated.
It's not egregious in this film, but there's definitely, I think, a healthy dose of convenience. And a lot of movies that I love have that, so I'm not trying to say that I don't, that's not like a deal breaker, but there's definitely some conveniences in the plot, is all I'm saying.
Because like this one right here, this is actually an incredible plot inconvenience. Like, they are gonna help him, because these are Jedi and all this stuff, and there's reasons why they don't want to be jerks. They're not just gonna throw him out. They're like, yeah, we'll help you, but we're gonna make it really difficult for you.
Yeah,
like, I like that. There's a challenge. One of the things about this that was pointed out to me by somebody who wanted to find the good in the movie is that for every fix that they get, for every problem that they solve, there is an obstacle they need to overcome. And the majority of those obstacles are handled by different characters. So it gives each character a value in the solution to the problem at different times. And I really like that. I admire that in writing.
Yeah. This character is just interesting.
This is Brian Blessed. Like, the Shakespearean plays, big guy. He's that winged, weird monkey guy from Flash Gordon. Like, Brian Blessed is a legend. He was the first choice to play Odin in Thor, but he said that he was too old. And he's freaking boss nass. I love it. He's so great. And he's still alive. My God, he's like 90.
I do love Qui-Gon in the back of this scene. Just the looks on his face. If you just like kind of watch his looks sometimes while they're talking, he's just amused. Because I know that Liam Neeson has said that he enjoyed making this, while at the same time there's a few times where he's like tried to give George feedback and was like, okay, you're not really interested in that kind of thing, so I'll just do what you're asking me to do. Yeah.
Liam Neeson is so funny in this role. Like, I love him so much in this. I love his dry delivery. I like his problem solving, but also he helped kind of change lightsaber combat because he worked with the stunt coordinator to kind of meld the weird, super flippy, spinny lightsaber forms that they use in the prequel trilogy here.
Mhm.
And he actually melds it with his classical training in fencing and broadswords.
I love
love
that. I loved in that scene just how totally chill he was. Like when they got latched on, and Jar Jar does the crazy, like his eyes like pop out a little bit, and Qui-Gon's just like, "Huh, that's interesting."
Just
like
cool under pressure.
Yeah, and then they cut
Yeah.
immediately to the problem being solved by the bigger fish, and they cut back to him like he's just been like he just knew it was going to happen. He's like, "Yeah, it's fine. There's always the bigger fish." And it's just, it's very much like a combination of a little bit of kind of a greater awareness, but also just the experience to know like it's probably fine.
I had this weird thing for years, all the way up until like the 2009 Star Trek, where in my head, Star Trek was human-looking aliens and board meetings, and Star Wars was little ships fighting and monsters. And this movie is one of the reasons for that. I loved how many different weird creatures there are throughout the prequel trilogy. They're just great, and this whole sequence of them going through the planet's core is one of those things where I like the monsters and the creatures and stuff.
I did love this moment right here coming up the second. In the theater, I remember being like, "Oh, that was a good moment."
Yeah, it's a good-looking creature. I mean, look at it. It's like a crocodile and an eel had sex with Godzilla.
I love that they literally pull like the same. It's like some version like a Vulcan nerve pinch there. They pull like the same gag like twice here.
Yeah.
This guy's just like smiling.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's the way that the jaws form on certain reptiles. And you'll actually see that in a lot of modern Dragon and Godzilla movies. They have that kind of smiling edge to their mouth because of how they choose to form the mandible.
Yeah.
Sorry, is that too nerdy?
No. It's
Yes.
it's
Terribly nerdy. I'm just kidding.
that is one of those where I think if you do it right, you can pull the same trick twice in a way where the second one is more of a shock because you just made the audience think, okay, well, we just had that moment with the monster moment. It's safe now. So you're playing a little bit with the audience there in a way that I enjoy.
Something I'd like to point out. One of the revolutionary things about Star Wars is that it was one of the first science fictions to introduce the concept of dirty sci-fi. So where things looked really worn in places like Mos Eisley, the Falcon was all beat up. It wasn't this pristine, cool Constitution-class starship going out there for a 5-year mission. And even though they do their best to make this movie much more pristine than the other Star Wars, because this is the golden age before everything goes to hell, things still do look used and scuffed and dirty in a way that I really appreciate. All of those tanks that we just saw roll by, they had the wear and tear on the edges. I love that. Even the droids, you can see have worn edges.
Well, I think they do a good job of contrasting the droids with the Naboo forces because, the Naboo, I think people think of this as like the shiny new Star Wars based almost entirely on the Naboo spaceships and the costume design, which, is an important part of the film. But yeah, Coruscant's a total mixture. Obviously, when we get to Tatooine, very used. Nothing's new or shiny there. And the droid army. It's really just the one culture, but it stands out so much. People think about, the whole movie looks new because they look so new.
Yeah, it's those Nubian class ships.
Yep.
Just the shiny mirror ships. Like the way that the shadows stick to the droids is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff like that wasn't really done.
Yeah, we take it for granted now, but it was a big deal at the time.
Because it's not perfect, but there is shading contrast because CG shadows are really hard to do in terms of stretching and like the gray areas and such. The split kick.
Yeah. And Qui-Gon's little putting his lightsaber back, very cool. But the other thing too is the interaction with the physical world, the way the digital creatures interact is really well done. Like you just believe it. Like Jar Jar, for as annoying as he is, and again, many people have said this, but you never really doubt that he's actually there.
That's interesting. That's a good point. I never thought about it that way.
Like his textures aren't perfect, but again, for 99, they're amazing. but his physical
The lighting
presence
is exceptional.
Yeah, his physical presence and the way he's interacted with. And granted, they had somebody on set, which helped immensely, I'm sure. But it's solid.
They actually had Ahmed Best there in person.
Oh yeah, he had the head thing on. I love that he got the line there that the black security guy, I forget his name, but there are too many of them. Which
Captain Tanaka.
Yeah, Captain Tanaka. Because that's been said by many of the characters. It's up there with I've got a bad feeling about this. It's in a lot of Star Wars.
Too many of them. What are we going to do? These two guys, actually, Panaka, this guy here, all that, was pointed out to me as a lot of people were really excited about Star Wars back in the originals, and like all the toy collectors and stuff, because they had all these background characters. They'd make little individual toys for each one of them. And then this movie comes out, and what do they make all the little side characters? Bland human dudes. We wanted aliens. We wanted weird
All
things.
I know... well, but that goes to show you, like in this, right? The Naboo didn't really interact with the Gungans, so there wasn't a lot of cross-pollination there, right?
So you think they're racist?
I bet you. No, yeah. I'm not trying to be that guy, but like at a certain point, like fast forward 30 years, maybe you start having Gungans, as part of the security forces or something like that, right? Like.
Mm-hmm. Even though it's actually the opposite, because... Yeah, keep going.
No, go ahead.
One of the things that's spoken about specifically in one of my favorite Star Wars books, Darth Plagueis, is that Palpatine, being from Naboo, the Naboo were very weary of joining the Republic, of being involved with other star systems and governments and species. They were very centrist and xenophobic. And so they didn't want to deal with other species. And it's one of the reasons why Palpatine is so xenophobic himself and essentially made humans the prime species of the galaxy during his reign as emperor.
I did think this will.
I mean, because we all know Zabrak are more amazing than humans. We know that.
What about Twi'lek,
Darth Maul.
Those sexy Twi'lek ladies.
Hey, my eyes are up. Stop looking at my Liku.
You would think that the shields would be like, covered by the shield. Shield generator would have like a shield around it, but it's fine. I feel bad for like astrometrics just getting like just off tier, just
right.
Hey, they died doing their job.
One of the things about this scene that always felt weird to me is that, and I didn't realize this till later, everything's ADR'd. All the audio's replaced. And it's just like, because it doesn't fit coming out of their mouths.
Honestly, I think the one I want for anything in Star Wars is I want to know what R2-D2 said there, because he looked at the blaster shots, and I swear that dude said a cuss word like, oh, sh. And then he's like, I better fix this quick.
All my friends are dead. I'm pissing oil here.
Exactly. Exactly.
I do. See, it's funny. I had somebody ask me this, why I complain about Last Jedi and the hyperdrive stuff and the whole, like, we're at a, fuel element. You're like, well, Phantom Menace had it. I'm like, well, no, there's a difference to me of, like, our range.
Oh, yeah.
We can only jump so far versus, like, we're just trolling along at sublight speed the whole time. But because this doesn't break anything.
Because all Last Jedi needed was something to make that reasonable. Make it a planet that has a really weird like ring system, and it puts off a strange signal that allows them to kind of hide from typical targeting in hyperspace.
Yeah,
that you could make it visually interesting and make it make sense in the world.
Yeah,
but whatever. That's a different bridge to cross.
Yeah.
Darth Maul.
Man, he was cool. He is cool. But the idea that they say that it's leaking. I'm assuming it's like coolant or something. Maybe the hyperdrive can only last for so long. Or you can fill in very reasonable. It works, I guess, is all I'm saying. Now there are two of them.
Yep, classic meme these days.
But I remember.
Did you know that
Adam Savage? Sorry, just really fast. I want to talk because he worked as a model maker on these movies. And he didn't work on this ship, but talking about the painstaking process to make this model and make it like it practically is that shiny. Again, man, the production team on this movie is just like, yeah,
It's fantastic.
They're amazing.
The late great Grant Imahara, prop maker for Mythbusters and many, many movies during this period. His whole thing was specialized robotics. He was a builder and operator of almost all of the practical droids on the sets here, especially R2-D2.
Yeah.
So
What do
any
you
of you guys
think
who have
about?
watched Mythbusters out there,
Yeah.
the Asian guy who recently passed away due to a natural causes, which was really unfortunate, he built and was operating R2-D2 with little remote control in many of these scenes.
That's awesome. So what do you think of the introduction of both 3PO and R2 in this film?
R2 great, 3PO trash.
Okay. I do kind of like that R2 is just a regular droid just working on Naboo.
Yeah.
Like,
He just leveled up.
Yeah,
Basically, he was the one
just a
that
working
survived.
man.
He's basically the Captain Rex of droids.
Yeah.
even the same
Right.
color scene.
I mean-
color theme.
Yeah, right. But I'm okay with either of them because R2-D2 is definitely the more confident of the two. This shows him having seen some stuff, whereas C-3PO was created and has daddy issues. So that makes total sense that he's so anxious.
Oh my god, he does have daddy issues.
He does. Tell me I'm wrong.
You're not.
Yeah, so
God.
I'm okay with either one.
I really don't like that they decided to make it so that Anakin made C-3PO. They've used it in the lore for actually some really good moments, I will admit that. But I don't know, man. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it could have been done better.
I always thought it was weird. And again, I will list that in like coincidence in this film. R2-D2 being just kind of a working man that just happened to be here and kind of went along for the ride.
Yeah.
But having 3PO actually be built by Anakin, I thought was just a little bit too much of sounded like a good idea, like in a pitch meeting or like a writer's room meeting.
Yeah.
And like I think in hindsight could have been. It's just a little too much of like oh wow, they're all actually connected way back.
and that's a good point because like R2-D2 gets injected into the group here, whereas C-3PO was attached from the beginning. So you're telling me that Anakin Skywalker, the slave from Tatooine, programmed all those darn languages into C-3PO? I call
no,
BS.
he just found a really expensive language module.
No,
And that's
Did he?
actually like the whole thing is that he found a junked droid with a really expensive language module and he wanted to sell it, but as a slave he wasn't allowed to sell it. But if he gave it to Watto wouldn't be willing to give him any of the profit for it. So he decided to build a droid around it instead.
Okay, so follow-up question. Build a droid that already existed, basically just piece together a model of another one, of an existing
Correct.
model, right? Not build his own.
Salvage all these parts of different protocol
okay.
droids from the junk fields,
Yeah.
piece them together, but with a really valuable translation matrix
Okay,
at the-
all
at the
right.
thing, so that way it could help his mom, and then if his mom ever got freed or something like that, she could sell it.
I never
And we have
understood
the Jewish shopkeeper.
But to say, like, I get that he's Jewish, but I also never took it as like offensive. It's like it's like one of those people that get all offended about this thing. I don't get it.
Like
Oh,
it's the same
so
people that
good.
get offended
It's
about
so
the
good.
goblins in Harry Potter.
Yeah, it's like, come on, get over yourself. He's just like, one, stereotypes exist for a reason, and two, you know what? I think you should be allowed to pick on almost everybody a little bit.
You see, I never took it as Jewish. Like, somebody pointed that out to me a couple of years ago, even. I never took him as Jewish because I took him as freaking just Arab. Which, if you've ever dealt with Arab traders, like, go to the Middle East, go to go to one of their outdoor malls, right? There's a word for it that I suddenly can't remember. One of their bazaars type of thing. They're all like that. It's not Jew related specifically. It's like Middle Eastern and Arab.
Yeah. Well,
And it's
his
genuinely
mannerisms.
real.
Yeah, his mannerisms. I can totally see that. But I think I think it's mostly just the big nose thing is like the stereotype people like to point out.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But either
What do you
way,
guys think of,
people get
this
offended
here?
too easily. I'll leave it at that.
Mhm.
Oh man,
What do you
Jake
think of the
Lloyd.
introduction of Jake Lloyd?
I I think he definitely gets more hate than he deserves. I mean, of course he gets more hate than he doesn't deserve any hate as a person. And I actually think that he didn't do a horrible job in this film. I think that he did what he could do, right? But I like that he's just already, I like that he's being introduced as somebody who likes to tinker. He has instincts, he's curious. He's definitely believable as a little kid because he is a little kid, quite literally. And again, I mean, this is always the challenge with a film, right? You have a pace you got to keep. You can't make the movie 6 hours long. They found him like the first place they went to, like there he was. But that's how you gotta write these things that way. If you spent a half an hour, and he was the 8th place they looked because it's more realistic or whatever, that might be more realistic, but it's a bad way to pace a film. So, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually never had any problem with them finding him first chance. By the way, Jake Lloyd definitely had problems. Like he's a tragic case, but there's also a lot of myth around Jake Lloyd. In a recent interview, actually one of the first in recent memory, his mother gave an interview, and people asked about the bullying because there were all these reports going around that he was bullied relentlessly and it caused him severe mental health issues. She says that she sheltered him from the majority of that, and he always loved Star Wars. He never felt bullied or personally attacked. But he did manifest schizophrenia in his teens, which is a genetic condition. It's passed down. It's not something, it can be exasperated into early showings through stress. But it's one of the reasons why he has stayed completely radio silent until recent years, is because he's been battling this severe, debilitating mental condition.
Yeah. Okay, we've had several of them. Again. We've had several of them already, but I just wanted to point it out. I do love, as cheesy as they are in some ways, the way that George does wipes as a there's something very just kind of charming in Star Wars about it. Doing the transitions he does. I don't know. Because that's like one of those touchstones of the original films that I, even if it's not as artsy or whatever, I like it.
Me too.
We
have the first appearance of Qui-Gon Jinn's communicator, which is in fact an old Nair razor that's been spray painted in Greebleed.
Okay, what did you? Do you think that part of 2 with Jar Jar earlier when they were all waiting, in the workshop or whatever, and he was like, trying to balance 8 things on his head or whatever, and then like fell over and was just making a mess. I feel like those are some of the little things that they just went overkill on to make him even more annoying. When they could have had more of these type situations, which are more realistic, like, oh, he saw food, and then he annoyed somebody. But even in a void, he still finds ways to be extra annoying. And I feel like if they had just taken that stuff out and made him just very clunky and very kind of socially inept, you would have still had the kind of the humor without it being so over the top.
I personally think that they should have made him a little bit less googly. Elasticy, Gumby-like. I think they should have made him more like Fezzik from The Princess Bride. They should have made him big, kind of clumsy, dumb. Not saying Fezzik was dumb, but dumb him down a little bit almost. Make him that kind of stupid giant, maybe even a little bit reminiscent of Chewbacca, and make it so that he's knocking things over and he gets very excited about things he likes, but he's not this Looney Tune.
Yeah. Well, and I think too his silliness, his kind of cartoonishness, it works better when it makes sense versus just always there no matter what.
But yeah, look at that profile. Big, strong Liam Neeson. We've been skipping over Natalie Portman and, to an extent, Keira Knightley.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of all that?
I had no idea. So, okay, when did you find out that Keira Knightley was in this film, and that I mean, obviously the movie reveals that that this is the Queen. That's not a movie tells you itself, but I found out years later, and I was like, oh my gosh, wow, I never realized that was her.
100%.
Shortly later, after Pirates of the Caribbean came out, my sisters and I actually found that out because of an interview or something, and we actually put in the movie and episode 1 here and fast forwarded until we could see the Queen with Padme and go, oh my god, that's in the full makeup, because they had several things. Because she was under 18, her mother was on set. Not Natalie Portman. Keira Knightley's mother was on set. She couldn't tell them apart.
Yeah, I mean they really do. I mean, it helps that they're wearing crazy headdresses and lots of makeup, but still, it is amazing how similar they look when they're in the full Padme garb.
Just here to the left of R2-D2 is a statue that supposedly they used that statue to model the character that first appeared in Force Awakens, Maz Kanata.
I want to know, like, he must have just been working on him and just had one of his eyes off to do something and just. I think so. How old was Natalie Portman in this movie? Like, was she like 19, 20 when she filmed this? I mean, she was young, right?
Gotta be something like that.
Yeah, because it's funny. We did Fifth Element, and we were talking about the director of that film. He had made Leon the Professional, which was her big first movie. And I mean, she's always been like good. I don't love every movie she's been in, but like she's a very good actress. And I think that she's understated in this film. But again, I think that she's fighting clunky dialogue and doing her best, but it just isn't doing her any favors in a lot of scenes.
I could see that. It's just, this is a director thing. Some actors are really good with directors. Some directors just don't bring out the best in their actors, and I think that's George Lucas.
Now, do you find it interesting that the Jedis also didn't realize that Padme had a double swapping back and forth? Like Qui-Gon wasn't aware of it? Is that just? Do you think that's just because they were that good, or they weren't even looking for it or suspecting it, or that there's a little bit of the Jedis were powerful, but they also had become very lax for lack of I don't know what would you call it, complacent at this point? That they're powerful, but they're very out of practice.
Decomposing.
Yeah.
I would describe it as decomposing. This is the only time Darth Maul has a speaking role in the films. He just has these two
Michael
lines.
Serafinowicz. Peter Serafinowicz.
Yes, Peter Serafinowicz. At last we shall have our revenge. Oh, such
Speaking
a good
of Darth
design.
Maul, one of my favorite Star Wars personalities is Sam Witwer. I love his heart for Star Wars.
Oh yeah,
so much.
I would trust him. I would give him his own series in a second.
I agree. Those who don't know,
I would
Sam
trust
Witwer,
him to do it right.
He first came onto the scene in Star Wars with the video game series Force Unleashed. He was the voice and physical model of the main character, and then he went on to voice, motion performance, and for Darth Maul and Darth Sidious / Palpatine in the Clone Wars series.
yeah. Yeah, he's also just like an amazing nerd, and from every interview I've ever seen, just a cool human also. Because I mean, he's done stuff with I mean, obviously he was in Battlestar as a pilot. He's done work with Star Trek. Like he did the motion capture for Kirk in that short that they did last year, right? That little tribute piece that was on YouTube.
That is correct.
Yeah, I mean, he's just. He's like you can tell he's both very talented and just like a true nerd's nerd, just loves it and to his bones. He loves it.
I love people like that because it's like I'm not talented, but I love the medium. I love sci-fi and nerddom, but I love people that love it for what it is, not for the paycheck.
Yeah.
And he's been in so many things. Like some of it's really bad, some of it's really good. He was a cast member for a season of Smallville. He was essentially the human form of Doomsday. Like he was
in a small show called Being Human. I think he was a vampire in that.
Yeah, he was a vampire. That was a British show that I watched, and they made an American version.
We liked it.
Good.
My wife and I loved it.
He was in Once Upon a Time. He was Mr. Hyde, and then Supergirl. That was it. He was Brainiac in Supergirl.
Okay.
Like a heavy
shame on all three of us. We forgot the other thing he was in. He was in not Last of Us. Shoot, what's the other one called?
Days Gone.
Days Gone on PS4.
That's right.
I played every second I could of that because it was Sam Witwer. Once I found out it was Sam Witwer, I was hooked. That game could have been utter garbage, and I would have played every second of it just to hear him speak more.
Nice.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah,
Does Jess need to be worried about you, Patrick?
Not at all. I
Look up.
I feel the same way about Henry Cavill because he's a Witcher fan. He's into Warhammer. Like I like these guys that do the thing because they love it, not because of a paycheck, and that's huge to me.
Yeah,
I agree with that. I agree with that.
Like, I mean, I'm not to go too broad, but like even Tom Cruise, the idea that he still tries to do his own stunts at his age is fantastic because that's why you should be doing it, not for the paycheck.
Yeah, he loves his craft for the craft, for the thing itself.
Exactly. Yeah. That's huge to me.
Yeah. Well,
and I think some guys like you can tell when it's an authentic like labor of love versus hey, I'm getting paid blah 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 to do this. It shows when they care.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I think that's one of the things that made Force Awakens better than it should have been, I guess, is that you could tell that J.J. Abrams really loved Star Wars, despite all of its flaws.
Yeah.
You could feel the love of Star Wars eking out of every pore of that movie.
Oh, J.J. is not a good filmmaker at this point, in my opinion, but he does love his craft, and he does it because he loves it. I really do believe that. He's just he's gotten his own way at this point. But I was going to say really fast, and I'll stop talking about Sam Witwer because I love what you were saying, Pat. Go on YouTube, anybody who's listening to this, and look up any of Sam Witwer's Star Wars trivia competitions on YouTube. There's a ton of them. And he is always...
He's amazing.
He's one of the most knowledgeable guys about Star Wars out there. And he's also so much fun to listen to talk about it.
Yeah, there's this one creative they have.
Go ahead.
They have one particular creative behind the scenes at with Star Wars right now, named Dave Filoni, who was hired by George Lucas to kind of be the storyline guru of Star Wars for a little while, and he knows everything about Star Wars. That's his job, is to know everything. And Sam Witwer has a story about how he's one of the only people to actively correct him on script writing for Star Wars lore, and it's like this weird badge of honor he carries around.
Oh, and the story is amazing. I was going to tell the exact same story. By the way, I love that we do this nerd podcast, and you took a second to describe who Dave Filoni was. No offense, we don't have a lot of subscribers or viewers, but if you don't know who Dave Filoni is, maybe this isn't the podcast for you.
Fair point.
I just kidding. You can stay.
I think my sister listens to it. I don't think she's going to know who he is.
In all the behind-the-scenes stuff for any Disney Star Wars Plus, Disney Plus Star Wars stuff, he's the guy in the cowboy hat.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Right now,
he also had a cameo in Mandalorian as one of the pilots, I think.
Yep, he's in several
one of
episodes.
The Republic pilots. Yep.
If you ever see anything in Star Wars that has to do with wolves, it's Dave Filoni because he is obsessed with wolves.
I love the pose there, Liam Neeson, like, leg up on the thing. He's just like, he's just like,
Captain Morgan missed out on an advertising opportunity.
He really did.
They are on Tatooine. It is hot. You know that he is standing there to air out his balls.
Getting a little airflow, a little circulation. Although his boots change every now and then.
Okay, when I was really young, I genuinely thought that there was going to be some sort of reveal that he was Anakin's father somehow. I don't know why, but I remember being like 8 years old, watching this movie, watching this scene, and going, "Oh, he's totally Anakin's dad, right?"
You weren't prepared for him to be Anakin to be Star Wars Jesus, right?
I wasn't expecting that.
I really don't like this, to be honest. The Chosen One thing.
Yeah, no, I remember my parents. That was the one thing that bothered them with this movie. Is they're like, wait a minute, they're doing Immaculate Conception out of the Force for this movie. And it really bothered them also. I'm kind of indifferent to it, honestly. It doesn't I don't hate it, but don't.
Hold on. Knowing what we know now, wasn't that Darth Sidious that was influencing that?
Okay.
Right.
I know the story.
Go, Zach.
Tap me in. Okay, so the official explanation
Zach's so excited.
Of Legends continuity is that you had Darth Plagueis, who at this time, Darth Plagueis the Wise, the story told in
still
episode
alive.
3 by Palpatine,
Yep.
He's still alive. His death, canonically, takes place at the end of this movie. When Palpatine is elected Chancellor, he murders Darth Plagueis that night.
Uh-huh.
And Darth Plagueis' whole thing was trying to create life using the dark side of the Force, messing with midichlorians. And 10 years before this movie, he succeeded. He was able to bring a rival Sith apprentice back from the dead using the power of the Force. And so the Force, sensing this great imbalance and unnatural power of the Sith, needed to create a counter. And thus it created a chosen one. A one that would bring balance to the Force. Because the Force does that. Whenever it's too light, it brings dark. Whenever it is too dark, it brings light. Through a chosen one.
Those darn wills.
Mm-hmm. This scene always bothered me. It's useless.
Oh, this is an example of just taking
Canto
Jar
Bite.
Jar.
This is Canto Bite.
Yeah. This
One thing I was going to say. Really
Jar Jar
quick,
was saying right there, cut the scene. The scene needs to end, is what he was saying there.
Yeah. One thing I was going to say was, Brian, you were talking about, oh, look, they conveniently found the one that they needed at the planet, blah, blah, blah. But isn't that what, like to Zach's point about the Force creating balance? Isn't the Force, if Qui-Gon's doing his due diligence as a Jedi, he's listening to the will of the Force and following it.
And that is, yeah. I mean,
know,
that's part of the charm of whenever you make and to be, we've said this before, Star Wars is a space fantasy. It's not science fiction. Whenever you have any kind of a world like this, whether it's set in space with laser swords or set, with actual swords and magic.
You call him the right name. Shame on you. I'm gonna call you Jake Skywalker. Knock that off.
This isn't a criticism or an endorsement, but you do have the advantage of allowing the world itself to have systems in place that kind of nudge things in certain directions, like Zach was talking about. That you do have things like destiny. You do have things like,
Real quick.
Anyways.
Qui-Gon sending the blood sample. Question. Do they need to put the shield generator down to be able to pass it through? Doesn't he need to climb a tall tower to transmit it? I got questions.
Okay.
I'm thinking of Rogue One here. Yeah. Don't they need to pass the tape through the 27 different doors so Vader can cut everybody up?
This is a desert planet.
I got a million.
And there's nothing in the way. There's nothing in the way.
There we go. Okay, thank you for that.
Also, that's the difference between sending a PDF and sending the technical blueprints of the Pentagon. Okay.
Whatever. Get out of here.
I always thought
we know how
ship
complex
was cool.
DNA is. No, hold on. We know how complex DNA is. I'm just kidding.
Well, they're not doing DNA. It's a blood test. It's a one-page readout.
Brian, to your point about this being
file.
Space fantasy and not sci-fi, I agree. But why can't you just believe, man? Just believe. just let the Force surround and bind you to this.
There's nothing.
Let it flow.
There's nothing wrong with space fantasy. It's awesome.
We don't have to describe everything, Brian, okay? There doesn't have to be a justification for everything.
No, because
I don't need to know why that four-legged animal walks on four legs. I'm okay.
Do you know what else is space fantasy, Brian? Do you know what else is space fantasy? Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, I would give you that. But one of the main reasons why I say that also is because then when I have to rank in conversations my favorite sci-fi, I don't have to figure out where to put the original Star Wars trilogy because it's tough. It's my get out of jail free card for that conversation, which is why I stick to it.
There's Zach's crushes. There's some Twi'lek.
Ooh.
I saw some Liku.
No, just like Ayla Sakura.
And make lizard faces over there stroking one of their legs. So that makes it not PG right there. That really should be PG-13.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, it would have been PG-13 had we known what he said, but we didn't get the translation. C-3PO could have ruined it for us.
I want to put your Leku up one of my. Oh wait, these guys are here now. But you were talking about Darth Maul's ship. And
Yes.
I always
love
thought it
that
was very
thing.
cool.
It's
It was a cool
called-
design.
It's called the Scimitar, and they
Yeah.
actually take this whole little short story at one point to go into what happened to it after, and you find out that it was actually built by a Sith Lord, one of the like Palpatine's like great grandmaster or whatever, and it's like imbued with evil. Like going onto the ship can tempt you to the dark side.
Okay. I always thought this was interesting. Sorry. He knows they're Jedi. Why would he not be like, why would I use something they could
He wasn't
easily
paying
manipulate?
attention.
I mean,
He
Does he
wasn't
know
paying
they're
attention.
a Jedi?
no, he talks
Yes.
about, what do you think? You're
Mind
waving your
tricks
hand?
don't work on me, only money.
What, you waving your hand around like
Remember?
you're some kind of a
Tries to trick
Jedi?
him? Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I wasn't sure if because he said like some kind of Jedi, so I was never sure if it meant that he knew they were Jedi,
Oh yeah.
or if
oh,
they were
yeah.
just like Jedi adjacent.
Well, I mean, either way, like, why are you waving your hand? You think you're some kind of Jedi, right? Like, so there, he knows that Jedi wave their hands like that. This guy's walking around with robes similar to a Jedi. Like,
It's close
I mean,
enough.
Wada was just too full of himself
Yeah.
to really think about it.
I
the use
just
of the
no,
word wizard is a cool thing.
this other kid who's like Anakin's friend is low-key also cool.
Mhm.
I like him. He's fun because he's got charisma and he's funny, and just like the delivery of I think you're definitely gonna finish this one. Just I don't know. He's got a very
Yeah.
small role, but to me he always stood out as being a good
He-
good
that,
he
kid,
has
that
kid
kind of
friend.
like-
I was just gonna say that quick area shot as the droid came like searching reminded me of like the area where Darth Vader walks down the first time he walks down it in Obi-Wan. I know it was a different. It was no, it was Tatooine, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, it was a different
No, it wasn't
planet.
Tatooine.
It was a different planet. That's right, but it felt very similar.
Oh, you're talking about where the droid
I can
was,
see
yeah.
that. I can see that.
Yes. So
Yeah, where-
total credit for Caravan of
Go ahead.
Garbage here. I just wanted to point
Yeah.
out the bikini thing here. I love it. They had never seen that. Okay, that's a Pixar
what?
character right there. We just went by the way.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely a Pixar character. No, Leia's bikini was worn by somebody next to Jabba, and Caravan of Garbage was like, oh, so she must have died, and they like cleaned it off and gave it to Leia like 30 years later or whatever.
Like she got fed to a Rancor, they hosed it off, gave it to the Twi'lek, hosed
they
it off.
had to wait
gave
for
it
the
to
Rancor
Leia.
to pass it first.
Yeah,
And
it's just
then
one of,
hosed it off.
oh man, it's just one of those little.
It's
one of those little things I'd never thought of before I saw them pointed out. I'm like, oh, that's kind of a fun man. Some of these drivers really were designed to be
I love 'em.
video game characters.
Dude,
Also-
does anyone realize this is the real life example of Space Race from Cartoon Network?
Oh God. But okay, quick thing, okay? Quick thing. Standing up there by Jabba is his little viceroy, Bib Fortuna, the Twi'lek
Yeah.
who gets mind tricked by Luke in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker.
Wanawanga. Anyway.
Wanawanga. That
Yeah.
actor reprised his role as Bib Fortuna after this in
Boba Fett, right?
Mandalorian season 2 at the very end with the
Yep.
whole Book of Boba Fett beginning and Boba Fett killing a fat Bib Fortuna. It's the same actor who was just a stand-in at this part.
Wow.
Like,
I
was
lo-
this necessary?
No. I also always thought that like 3PO walking out with the flag, that he was going to like blow over or something. He just did not look very stable out there.
He's made with heavy
Poor
metal.
Anthony Daniels, man. Had
Oh
to
my
really
God.
thin up to be able to fit in that suit. I'm just kidding.
I mean, they had a full animatronic puppet. Like, holy hell.
Well, and did you just
Who did
see?
Ryan and the Doug.
You just saw little Greedo walk by.
Little Greedo.
he was in a
There's
deleted scene, right?
Where
Yeah.
Anakin gets into a fight with him. That's where Qui-Gon gets the blood sample. Anakin gets into a fight with Greedo, and they punch each other up and stuff like that. And Greedo goes back to his parents, and one of his parents says, "Keep up that kind of attitude; it'll get you shot someday."
No, oh, that's so good. I haven't
Dude,
watched
go watch
the
it. I
deleted
swear it's
scenes in
there.
a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of the- I'm always a sucker for just the horns. I mean, I always think of this as the binary sunset, but they have it just right there for a moment before they go to this big triumphant thing for Jabba. I'm thinking also back to the original Star Wars. It's just, oh my gosh. Okay, so
That
there we go.
bikini's not quite the
Bikini?
same, by the way. That
I mean,
bikini's
it's-
has a little more coverage.
No, well, that one comes
She's
with
got pants.
chaps, and this one doesn't have that red sash in the front.
Yes.
The lady with the orange hair back there behind Jabba, she's like, what's going on? She's like peeking around the corner. Like, I want to see.
She has the skin spots of a Trill.
You're right.
Yeah,
You're
maybe her last name's Dex.
Ah.
So, did Anakin have a flag sitting around, or did he come up with one really fast, or?
I think they came up with one.
I love when she
I love
says
that. The
you
queen
assume too much.
just. Yeah, I love that.
You
She's
should
like,
too.
I am the queen, and I don't trust you, bitch. Oh man, I'm just gonna get sucked into this scene. I love it.
No, this is
I love the
one of
analog
those.
controls.
Yeah, this is one of those where
They made a whole video game out of it.
Yeah,
by the way.
I played the heck out of that arcade game. By the way, I remember one year I was like just a year or two after this movie came out, and I was at Harvey's out on the Reno side, sorry, the Nevada side of Tahoe, and they had like the full cabinet of this, and I probably dumped like $40 into it. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, have you guys been to California Adventure recently?
I will be there in about a month.
No, I'm
month and
going
a
to be
half.
going here in a couple weeks. My first time to Disneyland since Disney bought Star Wars. So
Okay, so
We're gonna
there's
go
a
big.
Cars ride there. I'm not a big fan of Cars, but this is fun. It always has super long wait times. Ooh, Warwick Davis. Warwick Davis, so fantastic.
he stalled,
fourth
man.
actor. He's
Chump.
Great. Appeared there, but you go there. There's a Cars ride. I'm not a big fan of Cars. Ride always has insane wait times. Take the single rider line. It's like
Oh, it's
25
Willow.
minutes, even when the other line is, an hour and a
Yeah.
half.
He was also an Ewok.
Go on
right?
that ride, and then ask yourself if they could make a ride like that, but with pod racers. It'd be the greatest thing in the world. That was a really long rant. Sorry.
No, that's right.
No,
So
you're good.
I was going to say. So I do think, I think the pod race is the second best sequence in the film after the Duel of the Fates lightsaber duel.
Mm-hmm.
I do think you could trim about 2 or 3 minutes off of
5
it
minutes, like-
and tighten it up a
Yeah.
little bit. But I also don't think
Yep.
it's like
12 minutes
it's,
long, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's like it's so long. It's like no, it's still very very good. And we haven't even talked about. I mean, again, brought up by many people besides us, the sound. And this is one of those sequences where the sound design of this film just stands out as being so good.
They take this character that just appeared randomly on the side of the cliff and turned her into a very prominent bounty hunter by the name of Oh, it went right out of my head. I wanted to say Ayla Sakura, but that's a
No.
that's a Jedi. But they
Something
use
boss,
her.
right? No.
No, that's Quinlan Voss.
I'm thinking of the other. Oh man, it's in my
but
head
they end
too.
up using that character a lot, and they actually establish her death in Solo. She's killed by Woody Harrelson's character.
Poor guy.
I know.
I love the sound of Suboba's his pod. Just that low thud 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 thud. I just always thought was so cool.
Or a
I like the
sing.
Tusk
Or a
Marine.
sing.
Or a sing.
I-
That was it. Or a
Yep.
sing.
I got you.
Yeah.
Man,
I like
that.
it.
This sequence right here, just like that wide shot where you get the slight what do you call it? The distortion on the ground and just
Yeah,
it's just
like the heat. Yeah.
that's such a good shot. Oh my goodness.
It is. This little thing. He reminds me of an Eminem.
I feel like he was copied in A Bug's Life or something.
Yeah, I could see that.
Did you hear this alien? He's like, "Que pasa, que pasa, que pasa, que pasa?"
Yeah.
He's
Oh, I love
definitely
this.
speaking
Oh.
Spanish.
And then the
Those
droid's fine.
droids. This is the first time we see those droids. They return in The Mandalorian.
Yeah, because
They're
The little
turning
Pokey
everything, I
droids.
swear.
Yeah, because they work for the gal who makes his Nabooian fighter, right?
Yep. The little things in this pod race, like you had Jar Jar and smelling the poop of the camel thing, entirely unnecessary and just kind of weird. But having the droid go into the thing and mess up the pod racer, having Jabba flicking the Giska off the side of the thing, the little guy selling.
There's
the
where
weird
you trim.
Like, no, it's such
no.
good world building.
No,
I guess so.
that stuff's great. You could have cut out the demise of like half these pod racers. I don't think you need to have so many of them go down. I think you could have just had passes and kind of little, and you could have tightened up the actual racing part. But I think those little bits, I agree with Zach. I think those little bits add flavor to the world that's invaluable.
Like, this whole thing right here is one of those instances I think that you could cut. There's no reason that Anakin needs to be, like,
Do a barrel roll.
dueling all these. No, I think that that's actually important. You are establishing that he is
No, I know.
genuinely skilled, and that does come in
Yeah.
handy later in the film, even
No,
though
I
I
know.
don't really like that sequence. Did you know that one of the pods on his racer reappears in The Mandalorian Season 2?
Yes.
That guy had a blindfold on. That'd be rough to race. Man, the crashes though are amazing as far as just the debris and all the work being done, the mixture of practical and CG. It's really
The
good.
particles are great. But this whole sequence, even as a young man, I knew that this was a stupid and superfluous sequence that they didn't need to have in the movie. This is what I would trim more than anything.
Well, yeah, you don't need, because you could have had just him dealing with the sabotage before the race
By
started.
the way, oh, totally.
Yeah, you didn't need this right here.
If he was Rey, he would have used the Force to bring it in instead of the magnet. Just saying.
You know, I'm not even against that idea.
He would still be more justified to be able to do it than her.
Yeah.
Do you think that part of why this sequence is so long, though, is that this is just an example of kind of George's overindulgence sometimes?
I'm gonna say no, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Name another movie where we saw this.
No, I mean not the sequence itself, but like the length of it and just all like how much there is.
Again,
No,
name something around this time where we saw this before, right? I guess where I go is, take advantage of it. I think in terms of this whole movie, there's a lot more opportunity to trim other areas than this. This would not be the top of my list to trim in terms of trimming some of the fat off this movie, right? Some of the political BS would get trimmed before this, I think, in my head. Because this is exciting.
I get where you're coming from on that, but
yeah.
One of George Lucas's goals in making this movie was to make something that was a little smarter, a little bit more Star Trek-like, because he did really like what they did with Star Trek in the 80s movies. And to put a sense of Machiavellian danger into the prequels and everything. So it was kind of, the politics was kind of his goal.
Yeah.
And I don't mind it. I think that the politics should have been like better articulated even.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and articulated with more like feeling. Because like we said, a lot of the boardroom scenes were boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like this whole sequence is too long. It's a little much. I love it. It's amazing still. It is George Lucas indulging, but the thing about it is that it has style. It has panache.
Yeah.
Where
and I mean, the
politics doesn't.
I feel, tell me if I'm wrong here, Zach. I am 99% sure that I've heard in an interview that this was directly inspired by Ben-Hur.
Oh, no doubt. Yes. In fact,
he wanted his
just the design of the arena.
He wanted his Ben-Hur sequence, which is, I mean, that is one of the great race sequences in film history. So
yeah,
and this is one of the great race sequences in film history.
Yeah, I would agree.
Me. This is in the top 5.
It's very good. Yeah.
Yeah. You see, they only needed one scene of Anakin being a problem solver, in my opinion.
Yeah, because that thing is it is redundant. Like you're establishing
this is
everything
his fourth
you
problem.
need. Yeah. Well, because you've already shown, because you need to establish 2 things, or 3, I guess. He's got the instincts that the Force is naturally giving him the instincts. He's a skilled pilot, and he solves problems on the go. Like you need to establish all that, and they could have done it in 3 or 4 minutes less of time in this sequence.
Yeah.
But they did say at the beginning. Well, I don't know if they said it, but I remember reading something where it talked about like most pod racers aren't human. He's really one of the only ones, and it's because of his quick thinking. And so he is working on a deficit because he doesn't have forearms to do things or eyes out of the side of his head. So the problems would happen, and it's what he can do to get around them.
Yeah,
right? And he plays
absolutely. Fair. Yeah, that is true. He doesn't play dirty. No, I agree with you, Pat. We didn't need 2 problem-solving sequences to demonstrate.
Well, really, this is 4. You know, he had the little spin. Well, he had the stall, the spin cycle, the launch into the air. What's up?
He had the dust up with the other guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
This was great, though.
Oh yeah,
I love this.
It's a great crash
Let's
too.
Look at the particles. Look at the particles.
I always loved this. Oh, it's good.
This is another one of those little superfluous moments.
That was great, though. I'm totally for that. Totally for that.
Did you know that there's a character in one of these scenes just sitting at a table, and he's just looking on? I think we already passed it. I was looking for it, but I think I missed it. And they decided to take that character and say that was actually a Jedi Knight that was undercover, and he specializes in undercover work. And he's actually a personal friend of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and they ended up turning into a Jedi Master Voss, Quinlan Voss.
All I know is little Greedo and Anakin's other friend, they went to go high five, or Anakin's friend went to go high five Greedo, and Greedo definitely left him hanging, and you can tell.
Aww.
Okay,
that friend has kind of a Biggs Dark Lighter Wedge Antilles feel to me.
Yeah. I do love the detail of his face being all dirty, except for where his goggles were. I also, was it implied there? I just always thought it was funny if it was that Jabba was basically just like bored and like fell asleep, despite all the craziness going on. I do love that. It just
well, if you think about it, he's got so much money. He's seen a million of these. Who cares? Yeah.
Yeah. He's just like
it was high stakes for us as the audience because we wanted Anakin to win to go with Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
But for anybody else, this was a normal day.
Look at the animation on this flying, Jewish reptile man. Like the lighting and everything.
Oh,
the movement of it. It's so ahead of its time.
Yeah. I do love the detail of the droid going in the background there. Just like when Darth Maul intercepts them, it's not just out of nowhere, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Obi-Wan's line about why do I sense we've brought another useless life form?
Yeah.
There it is.
Obi-Wan's a little bitch.
Pathetic life form.
But at the same time, I love Ewan McGregor so much. I love him in these movies. I wish they had more of him in this. There was this video essay from years before there were mainstream video essays where this one guy was talking about how to fix the prequel trilogy. And his fix for this movie was actually, one was to age up Anakin. The other was actually to make Obi-Wan the main character. And you're following all of these happenings from Obi-Wan's point of view as he's struggling to figure out if he's ready to be a knight, and also developing a relationship, not necessarily romantic, but a relationship with Padme, and fleshing her out so that she's not just standing in the background through all these scenes.
Yeah,
he would want to flesh her out.
Gosh.
I mean, it's Natalie Portman. I'm not going to say anything on that.
Yeah, when she does act, it is impactful, but she definitely is relegated to a background character in this movie for a good chunk of it.
She's relegated to a background character in most of it, unfortunately.
Tell me why that is, because I mean, at the time we don't know that she is the twins' mother at this point.
Yeah,
we don't really know that.
My personal belief is that, or not my personal belief, but the belief of several people is that George Lucas was having some personal problems going through a very, very difficult divorce and didn't want a girl who looked a little bit like his ex-wife to be the face of his franchise right now. But that's all conjecture.
I appreciate that Anakin asked about this. Like, this is actually like I feel like the acting is a tiny bit stilted in this scene, but I like the fact that they had this moment between Anakin and his mom, because I think a lot of movies just would have bypassed this whole question and just been like, yay, and then moved on.
Mm. And his whole thing, they do really well, because I know that he consulted some psychologists and stuff about what would a child's background need to look like in order to end up making these choices. These are some legitimate things, like incredibly talented. He doesn't want things to change, though. Deeply connected to the people around him, but they're bad, or they're leaving. No father figure. Death of a father figure. All of these do stack up into a very, very volatile package. I think these scenes are incredibly important for that.
Oh yeah, no, I do. One thing I will defend about the prequel trilogy, despite its issues, is making Darth Vader into a tragic figure. I mean, because they already had that. I mean, I think it was a brave thing to do at the time. I think people don't really think about it now in Return of the Jedi. You know, the reveal of him, his turn, taking the mask off, having that touching moment between him and Luke, which I actually really love that moment, Return of the Jedi. So they'd already kind of done that a little bit, and then having this flesh him out and understanding that he was as much of a victim of Palpatine, as anybody, was I like it. I really think it's good storytelling. It's interesting. Also, too, just the whole fantasy idea of just kind of the tragic villain who goes through, just is manipulated and used, and he's just been through the ringer emotionally. And I mean, again, that doesn't make anything that he did as Vader like justified or or okay. But I even back when I was 1920 and these movies were coming out, I appreciated the attempt to make Anakin a real full character, and even though it wasn't executed perfectly, and the Clone Wars was a massive leap in that too, of just flushing him out. And anyways, what do you guys what are your thoughts, I guess?
No, I agree, especially when you're thinking of how he wasn't portrayed by the strongest of actors in any format prior to. I mean, not counting Darth Vader himself. And I don't know. I think they did as well as they could under the circumstances.
Yeah. Anytime that one of the main themes kicks in, I've been listening to this music since I was a kid, and it hits me every single time.
I think my one kind of takeaway is Darth Vader it's so funny because even without Clone Wars, even without like how lame A New Hope combat was, Darth Vader was effing scary.
Yeah.
For no reason. And what I mean by that is we saw him choke the one guy out or whatever, right? But that's about it. Like,
yeah.
Darth Maul
pure presence.
is yeah, exactly. Darth Maul is so much scarier. And because of Darth Vader's legend, you could have less impactful actors play Anakin, and it didn't do a darn thing to him. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, look at how we treat Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren was such a bitch compared to Darth Vader. We compare all Star Wars,
fantastic actor.
We compare every Star Wars villain, every single one, to Darth Vader and Darth Sidious. They are the ones to beat, and they always have been.
Did you mean Darth Maul?
Well, no, Sidious is the one pulling the strings.
Okay, that's your. Because I was going to say, because for me, it's Vader, Sidious, and Maul.
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
No one comes close. I was interested to see. I wasn't glad to see Plagueis in Acolyte, but I would love to learn more about Plagueis if done by the right people.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yes. So much, so much, so much.
because he's the one that trained Sidious, and that freaks me out.
Yeah,
Like, how twisted do you have to be to create that?
dude.
You know?
For those of you who are interested in Star Wars books, I cannot recommend um the Darth Plagueis novel. It's just called Darth Plagueis highly enough. It is so good. It is so interesting and creates a genuinely scary character out of both Plagueis and Palpatine.
Well, that's where you already kind of set this up for me, Pat. Vader was the definition of the just the picture of a villain. He was terrifying, and it was all vibe. I mean, he had moments here and there, yeah, where he was just, he choked out the Captain Antilles, and had a little bit in terms of just how he talked, but it was all presence. It was all just James Earl Jones' amazing voice. Just the who's the actor who was in the suit? Peter. No, that's Chewie.
I always said Brian Mays for some reason. I'm like, no, that's the guy from Queen.
No,
but anyways,
no.
but they to have one of the most epic film villains in film history, and then to take him on a tragic journey was I think was brave. I mean, again, that wasn't done. We weren't in the
David
age
Prowse.
where David Prowse.
Thank you.
We weren't in the age of retelling things from the villain's point of view. That's a modern trend. I mean,
yeah, this is pre-Wicked.
Yeah, George Lucas and again people think, oh well, you did that way later. No, he did that in Return of the Jedi. Like he set it up then. He didn't flesh it all out, obviously, but he laid the seeds, and then to go through this, it's something that I admire very much, and I just wanted to make sure I just wanted to talk about that for a minute. So thank you for listening.
No, totally. What do you think of this scene? Because this is supposed to be the scene in which he falls in love with her, kind of thing.
Yeah. Again, if he had been 4 or 5 years older, it would have worked better.
As when I was that age, there were girls I was interested in who were much older than me. So I think that that age at this time, it worked for me then.
He absolutely could have had
crushes. I do wish that they had an older,
Yeah. Well,
I mean, he just lost his mom, and this girl who is pretty is kind of caring for him, and he was already she's cute and wanted to show her cool stuff.
For me, it comes down to what a boy his age going through that. Of course, he can have feelings, and they're very real, but somebody that age doesn't understand romantic love and can't processes it correctly. And I know they're not saying that he is. I mean, I'm not trying to put that on it, but I do wish they had said, I love the Roman, sorry, the weird Vulcan Roman with blaster rifles in the background there. Just cool looking.
There's supposed to be kind of a pre-form of those red guards in Palpatine's throne room in Return of the Jedi. I
don't know why, but I'm just, I'm thinking Roman mixed with Vulcan for some reason. I don't know why I'm going that way, but
there's supposed to be a Roman vibe to it. You're not wrong.
Yeah, well, but I'm not sure where the Vulcan's coming in, but I'm still sticking with it. I feel like there's a Vulcan vibe there.
Oh come on, Amok Time and number 3 with the headdresses.
Oh, yeah,
totally valid.
But I always thought that the romance between through all 3 movies, the romance between Padme and Anakin was a little bit. It was weak.
Yeah, definitely could have been done better. But this was when Qui-Gon Jinn was supposed to be originally introduced. The whole idea was that Anakin would be introduced to Qui-Gon and Palpatine at the same moment. And that's where the conflict between the two of them for Anakin's soul would begin.
Mm.
So, because as people have often quoted and mocked, but I don't think it deserves as much mocking as people give, Lucas wanted there to be a rhyming to the way that Star Wars worked. He described it as a tone poem.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I actually really like that.
People mock that clip because I think that people think that it's somehow oh, George Lucas is simple, or, he thinks he's so clever. It's no, it's still, it actually is a great artistic thing. And George Lucas, the most articulate at times explaining it? No, but it doesn't make the idea.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's because he sounds kind of like a dork when he's explaining it in that interview.
Yeah, and it's been used as a meme, and that's just it diminishes it's a legitimate and an effective storytelling technique, and he does pull it off well.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Yeah, no, I again like the creative beats that George Lucas goes through, his like for lack of better terms, his outlines are truly amazing. I will defend them all day long. He wrote some of the most amazing, hero's journey, modern versions of that ever. And he deserves full credit for him. It's just when he gets into the details that it just starts to stumble a little bit, and it's unfortunate because he gets crap for that, and sometimes unfortunately doesn't get the credit from those same people for the things he does so well.
Well, you see, that's always been Star Wars, or I'm not going to say always. That has largely been Star Wars' problem for a while. Is amazing concepts with poor executions.
You okay there, buddy?
I specifically, I stutter sometimes when I get worked up. But I specifically am thinking of like the Obi-Wan show, and the Acolyte, especially, where if you have the elevator pitch for those is phenomenal, but the actual execution was so subpar.
Yeah. And I think that it's hard. I get too why a lot of directors didn't want to do it. They the pressure of how do you do Star Wars? I do love the guy with the two brains. He's totally wearing Princess Bride boots over there, by the way.
Coyote Mundi.
Yeah. There's another whatever species Yoda is also. There's another one sitting over there, right?
Yes, that's Yaddle. Female. His species is never named. Yaddle's fate
Grogu's
was
mother, you mean? I'm just
yeah,
kidding.
Grogu's mother. Yaddle's fate was revealed in the excellent animated short films Tales of the Jedi.
Yes, I loved that. One kind of cool thing, did you notice there was a Jedi Master that's what's the race? The Kaminoan. Is that a Kaminoan right there?
That is not a Kaminoan, no.
Okay.
No, the right face. The same long neck, though. They're probably genetically related somehow.
Yep, good old
I'm
Panspermia.
about to look it up.
Yeah. But I was going to say, I think, getting back to really quickly wrap up, I was saying, Star Wars is daunting because I think that you have, and I mean, to be fair, a lot of long-running franchises have this problem where when you want to put your mark on it, but at the same time, there's a vibe and a feel that's so ingrained with the franchise that it's really hard to honor that and have fans be willing to give it a chance. And I mean, to be fair, I'm guilty of this too with certain franchises, where you're just like, well, no, it's not what I loved before, and it's hard to accept a new version of it. And there's, it's a challenge to do something different when the thing that started the whole franchise was so massive and so distinct in its sound
Iconic.
and its design. Yeah, I mean, how do you honor that while at the same time? And that's where I think it's done a much better job in games and books. But it is when you go to film, it's hard because people have an expectation, and you're trying to honor that while at the same time put your mark on it. Like I would be wary if I was a creative, being like, I don't even know if I want to try this. I'm kind of damned if I do, damned if I don't. I either just make a copy or I do my own thing, and everybody hates it for not being the old thing. So I do get it.
What's that line from Ultron? Like, you want to fix it, but you don't want it to change.
Yeah.
The books, I think, are especially really difficult to get right because one of the main driving forces of Star Wars that helps immerse you in the world is the music. Oh, here we have a cameo by the always fantastic E.T. species. When they do a little like big clap, they're off in the background.
I remember, I've seen that before. So I'm assuming this actually is Padme here and not Keira Knightley.
Yeah, that's why they had that moment where Anakin goes to visit her, and she like wants to hang out with him, but she's in her queenly garb, and she needs to
maintain her cover.
Not be Padme.
I mean, and that is a trope that's like existed a couple times, not only for protection, but also the idea of a way to kind of, be among your people, to kind of dress down and go see your city. I mean, that's been done in other fantasy and medieval
Henry
storytelling.
V, Act 3, Scene 4.
Yeah, among his troops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always a great. I think, didn't David do that in the Bible at one point?
Maybe. I definitely feel like that is
But
one of the Old Testament kings.
Yeah.
Now, this is actually one of the scenes where things being a little bit more formal, but at the same time, there are moments of like this. This isn't too bad. Like, 'cause her delivery is a little bit more dynamic. Is like it's flat when she's making a point, but then she gets a little elevated. She's being manipulated. The background of all the different senators and planets. Kind of the. I mean, if you watch C-SPAN. The Senate chamber can get a little rowdy at times, but at the same time, they're still trying to have decor. It's a good mixture. I feel like they hit here. There's ET down there.
Yeah, there it is. I kind of love that delivery though, because one of the things that I wasn't really thinking about, who's the mother, when I was 8 years old, but I remember it being pointed out to me by my sister, because she was just like, "Oh, that's the mother," and I'm like, "What do you mean? You heard her talking about a committee?" Because of Leia.
Oh,
I am
gosh.
not a committee.
Don't have time to discuss this committee. Oh, okay. Again, this is a caravan of garbage thing again. So again, I don't want to pretend like this is my original thought, but I've thought of it before, but they just articulated it well. Do you think this movie needed a Han Solo-esque character, or do you think it would have actually made it worse?
I think having somebody along for the ride who's sitting there going, "What the hell?" and they need to explain it to him, could have helped. They actually have their Han Solo stand-in kind of split between Padme and Jar Jar Binks. And that's their problem. They make Padme too passive. They make Jar Jar Binks too annoying and Gumby-ish. I think that Jar Jar actually could have been their roguish Han Solo. Not necessarily like Han Solo, but more of that, like, rough and tumble type of character,
Here's my take. No, because the original trilogy was all about them barely making it, barely surviving, by the skin of their teeth, by the luck that they get. This is much more calculated. This, and it's more kind of on a grander scale. So I don't think you need that character that basically gets by on luck alone here, especially when you have so many Jedi around.
Honestly, do you know what I would have
That's just
done?
kind of my thought.
You know what I would have done personally? I would have actually made Padme on Tatooine show herself as a little bit more roguish, willing to do a little bit more dirty deeds. Have some scene where...
No, that's episode 3, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, sir. Actually, episode 2 more than anything. That white outfit. But like, have a scene where they need to pick a lock on a door, and she's like right there, and like shows it. This handmaiden's a little sus, and then you find out she's the queen. It adds like an extra dimension to that. Have that little bit of scoundrel.
Yeah.
In Padme. First
it's interesting
mention
that
of Bail Antilles.
Yeah, about to say he lost to Bale. That would have been a different situation. Sorry, he didn't lose to Bale. Bale lost to him. Obviously, he's manipulating. Like, he never. This is all. I appreciate with the storytelling method where the audience kind of knows there's a conspiracy the whole time, and you even know who's behind it, and you get to just watch it unfold. It's not about like who is the bad guy? Like the mystery, the audience knows something the characters don't. Like there's a way to do that. Like the analogy I would say is there's detective shows where they actually show you the crime and tell you exactly who did it first, and the interesting part is watching the detective figure it out. But the audience knows, and they want him to get there. And it's a similar in this. We know who the bad guy is. We know that he's kind of pulling the strings. and we kind of get to watch everybody else stumble around and kind of figure it out piece by piece. And I like that narrative structure a lot. I'm not saying this movie nails how you do that, but as a structure, I always enjoy stories that do that. What do you think about that, Zach?
I agree. I think that this movie does something really smart that a lot of prequels struggle with. A lot of prequels, even like one of the quintessential failures of prequels is that they try to surprise their audience. And this one, it's not trying to surprise you. It's trying to thrill you and emotionally bait you. And that's what they needed to do, and that's what they did. Did they do it perfectly? No. But they did it well. And so many other prequels, things like Enterprise, for example, or for any of you guys who watched Caprica, they want to surprise you by circumventing what you know. And here's this thing that you never would have imagined would have happened. And it almost cheapens or undercuts what comes later.
Yeah.
And by not hiding Palpatine.
All right, you ready, Brian? Sorry. Your question about the Han Solo character?
Hit me.
Given how Qui-Gon operates within the Jedi Council, he is the Han Solo character because he's pretty counterculture, and he kind of operates a little roguish.
Yeah.
I could see that.
So this is the first bringing up of the concept of the Sith. I remember my mom hated the idea, like, who are these Sith? Because she's a huge classic Star Wars fan. She's like, I don't like that. That's dumb. It sounds very witchcrafty, yada, yada, yada. She didn't like it at all. But Sith actually appeared in the very first draft of the original Star Wars script, with Darth Vader being referred to as a Knight of the Sith Order.
Yeah, I know that it wasn't invented for this. I didn't know that specifically, but I knew that it's not like something that George, not like Midichlorians, where he came up with it while he was writing this movie.
Hey, watch it.
Midichlorians could have been a really interesting concept if it had been handled differently. They make it sound so much like, oh, it's what gives people their Force abilities. And canon has since gone back to that, but in Legends, they eventually course-corrected into something essentially saying that midichlorians were this symbiotic species, essentially, that were attracted to Force sensitivity and could help boost your Force sensitivity if you have more. So the more powerful you were in the Force, the more midichlorians you could attract, and the more midichlorians you had, the more you fed off of each other to boost your Force potential. And I really liked that.
For me, I didn't like it at the time. I'm a little more neutral on it now. I do think that I generally don't enjoy over-explaining mystical things. Like, in Lord of the Rings, for instance,
unless it's Star Trek.
Well, no, that's what I was to say. I was saying in Phantom. You
never
stop.
read Brandon Sanderson.
But as you say this,
sorry, go ahead, man.
There's a nuance and a leaving a mystery to, like, I love that Lord of the Rings, Tolkien never, like, goes into some kind of, intense, minute details of how magic works, in Middle Earth. It's not needed. You don't need to know that. And I think that there's leaving some mystery about the essence of magic. I'm not saying you can't do the other. You can write all of the mystery out of it by just explaining it all, and that's fine if you do a good job and it's your intent. If it's your intent from the beginning, then I think that makes a big difference also. I think that when it was left vague and then retroactively you go back and you try to explain it all, I think that's where it falls apart a little bit. And midichlorians felt like that. It's like the Force is mysterious. Let it be mysterious because you obviously
let it be this
didn't think of
energy
this.
field and call it a day. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and let hyperspace not be a weapon. I mean, I don't know that I'll ever get over that.
I actually think that the hyperspace weaponization could have been done really well, but it needed a little bit of extra dialogue.
This is like her worst outfit, by the way. Sorry, the whole like head bag thing. It's just
no. She's trying to look like a Twi'lek.
No, this is her blue period.
I have an inappropriate thing. I'm
supposed to be like.
Is that like the Jade Dynasty? This is the Blue Dynasty.
See, whenever she's Padme, she's always like, I am going to speak like I am a robot.
Yeah.
There's like one droid ship left. Is the blockade, like everybody else left, is just the one ship left?
I guess.
Okay.
Well, once they realized the Nabooians were useless, like they didn't really have any, they didn't put
Well,
up
they
much
only
of a
ever
fight.
had a single control ship out there, didn't they?
Probably, but
No,
there was
there
like,
was like
but there was a
8 or
whole
10.
fleet of those ships at the
Yeah.
beginning.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right.
And not only was there the one ship that they detected, they just like flew like around it or something, because like there wasn't any mention of any kind of trouble landing with that detection.
Yeah. Here's the wig again.
Yeah. Yeah. Poor Ewan. Or Ewan.
He hated that thing so much.
Yeah. So, okay. I want to start this conversation before we get into this whole big final sequence. I fully agree with all the people who have also said this, that there's one too many like sequences going on. And I think you could have cut the Gungan fight entirely out of the end of this movie and it would have improved it. I think if you had just had the space battle, the palace in infiltration, and the Darth Maul fight, I think it would have made the ending much better.
I agree, but not entirely. I think that the fights should have been combined. I think that the Gungans should have had a secret
fought
way
Darth
into
Maul.
this.
I'm just
Yeah, right. The Gungans should have had a secret way into the city.
You definitely could have
that
involved
they
them.
exploit.
But it feels so disconnected out on the Windows 95 wallpaper.
Right?
hey, you leave that out of this.
I'm just saying. You know what I mean? It's just it's
You're
so
not wrong.
disconnected.
I know.
It's so disconnected from everything else. You're like, because like the palace infiltration, while the fight with Darth Maul and Anakin doing, they needed a space battle. That's fine. It just if they had brought it into the city, it would have been so much better.
Yeah. Well, but my understanding was that technology-wise, Theed was a lot of CG as well. And so maybe they went, hey, simple backdrop. We can, because again, in Theed, there was, at max 30 items on screen or 30 people, right? And the Gungan battle, you've got thousands. And technologically, I think they had to. If they were it was either going to be grand background or grand amount of people, and he just chose the wrong one.
Oh, I completely admire it from a tactical point of view, but again, it's just it bogs it down to me. Like once I got past 1 or 2 viewings of this movie, I would get, anytime it wasn't Darth Maul, I was getting bored at the end of this movie.
Yeah, I could see that. I agree. I think that the Gungan battle should have been incorporated into the Theed battle and not separate. I think that I even think that the Duel of the Fates sequence, the actual lightsaber battle, should have been in proximity to the Queen battle. I think that it should have been going through a throne room and everything like that, not through a power generator. I think it could have been done. Everybody could have been on screen at the same time, except for Anakin up in space.
What if they had been trying to protect Padme while also defeat Darth Maul? Like they had to worry about Darth Maul's purpose was actually to take out Padme.
Yeah, exactly.
And they had to protect and also it would have added a dynamic to that fight. It would have been interesting.
Mm-hmm. I certainly think so. But that's a me thing. But also, you guys know that I like to write. I have been playing with this idea off and on for 15 years now of how could I write a better version of this particular story and just transmute it into a different genre, put it into a cyberpunk, put it into a high fantasy setting. Fix all the little problems. And I have some of my favorite work has come out of that thought experiment. So I do have a fondness for this movie because of that.
I do like these speeders. I like with the practical one they're standing by. Just nice little
yeah, you can actually see him getting out.
Yeah.
We shall make you bomb bad general. What do you think of the Gungan tech?
I mean, it works with them being a water race, but it really seemed also a little bit to sell kids' toys in its design to me. Like, it just immediately was like, oh yeah, there's gonna be a Nerf version of that, or what? Yeah, I mean, again, the marketing. I find it cheesy, but I also understand its appeal. If that I'm trying to hit both sides there, but I don't personally like it, but I also understand. I get it.
Like, what do you think, Pat?
I played this video game.
Oh yeah,
I think we got some.
I played a lot of this video game. I played a lot of Jedi Power Battles. This game,
Mm.
the old Obi-Wan game on original Xbox. Oh man.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you think, the Pat of the Gungan war technology?
I square peg round hole. Let's make them feel inferior to the battle droids, but also give them different stuff. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think they tried too hard to kind of keep them of two worlds.
Mm.
I like that it feels
I
organic.
agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly about we didn't need this battle. And I feel like they could have, I mean, if I had to critique the battle, right? Or their technology, I don't know. I like that it's different. I like that they're not walking around with blasters, and I like the idea that their shield generator is carried by an animal. I like that.
Yeah, I like that.
It kind of keeps them organic, but I think it would have been cool to see like Gungan commandos go into the city. Like,
This
it
was
would
a
have been
trailer
cool to
shot.
see a group of Gungans go with the, like, Captain Panaka and those guys to get Padme where she needs to go and see them fight a little differently.
Yeah, I think one thing that I'm gonna say, I think they use these ball things, these boomers. I think that is an intentional design in order to keep the movie rated PG. I think that if they were using guns or spears and big melee weapons or spear guns, because they're aquatic, right? Wouldn't they have something like spear guns? Dude, imagine if they had them carrying something like needlers, okay, from Halo. Because like an orb shape that you fling like that's not good for underwater, unless maybe it's like bait that something bites and it explodes its head.
Follow-up question, but then why do the droids get blasters and get to shoot the alive people with blasters? You know what I mean?
Well,
Why would it matter
that's
that
just
they're killing robots?
Yeah, I do. I do think part of the reason that they went with droids is because they wanted something for the Jedi to carve apart while keeping the rating. I do think that was a deliberate decision to keep it kid friendly
100%.
by George.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that cool little line of sight laser technology?
I think they're just flashing lights at each other.
Hey, that works, man.
It does.
Smoke signals and flags and, I mean, one ping only.
Yeah. That's
see, how cool would it have been to see a group of 4 to 6 Gungans with them?
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
needlers.
slinging boomers.
I want to say, okay, do the tanks, do they have like shields they rely on? Because that thing went out like a chump.
It was a surprise attack. Also, they may have hit it in its weak spot, which Battlefront 2 tells me is behind in the entry port.
That was a poster.
I think
I appreciate that, Zach. I appreciate that so much. I played that game so much.
Dude, I know, right? I love
that. Is still, in my opinion, the best Star Wars game ever made.
Which one?
The original
Battlefront 2.
It's not KOTOR, but whatever.
It's good, but yeah, KOTOR.
Darth Revan. Revan.
And
KOTOR.
and I also still I will hold up Jedi Knight, the Dark Forces Jedi Knight, as being just phenomenal. There's the Wilhelm scream.
The little live action Rhett Foreman Sith Lord.
I mean, that's a little weak, but the game itself is just, it's really good. Anyways, Okay, really. What do you think of the sound effect for the Naboo lasers? I always like they kind of like almost like an inverse sound of the regular blaster sound. I always thought it was a cool distinction to make sure you knew when they were firing.
I do like the distinction because, and I do appreciate that they use different colors and different sounds for, because then you know who's shooting who, right?
Yeah.
This is always interesting too for me that the good guys are using the green lasers, which is a little bit of a subtle,
Luke's lightsaber.
change. Well, yeah, Luke's lightsaber, but like it was always green lasers were the Empire through the entire original trilogy.
Eyes red from X-Wings.
Yeah. But I also
maybe
love
that's
them.
to kind of subvert.
Right, this whole sequence.
Yeah,
do you think that this is an indulgence?
Oh yeah.
This
Oh hell yes!
It's also
unfolding sequence?
stupid to like unload these guys. Like this is like from a tactical point of view, this is such a vulnerable.
They should already
action
be
to do.
unloaded.
Yeah, like this
Right?
would be.
Like this. Is
See,
this
these guys should have
cool?
already been sending boomers at him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I would have dropped the shields and sent the catapults, and then put the shield back up
Yeah.
and
Like,
taken out 3/4 of the droids.
Is this supposed to be like the British soldiers, the red coats, just all lined up in a row,
Yes.
and we're doing a pitch
Yes.
battle here? It's
Yes.
crazy. Do you remember this trailer shot though? Because this was like the trailer shot.
Oh,
right
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was really good.
Ouch time.
Did you know that in the second one, Attack of the Clones, they modeled the Geonosians after these battle droids? Because it was to explain the head shape and everything, that these battle droids are essentially Geonosians.
Oh, interesting. I could see that.
Yeah, because the Geonosians were the ones who produced it.
I thought
I
it
always
was the
hated these
Techno
things.
Union. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's just it's
Union
yeah.
stands with you, Cal.
it definitely is impractical.
Good job, Wicket.
Yeah, like there's some cool visuals in there, but it's just
Oh,
kinda
look, there's Blonde May. Did you see Blonde May? There's a
that's
blonde
gonna
girl
be-
that had the same hairstyle.
I think that's Corday. She gets blown up in the next one. No,
No way.
There is actually a I'm just.
She's just a regular handmaiden.
Oh, okay.
She is. Oh, here it is.
This
Oh.
that music note right there, and just this reveal.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
And I love this, like, everyone starts taking off clothes to, like, battle. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Well, and again,
that's how my wife and I always fight.
Gosh. No, I do love the just a little bit of medieval kind of just like, all right, we're getting ready to we're gonna do this, and there's just a little bit of that like chivalry
it's Kurosawa.
almost. Oh yeah.
No, it's samurai.
Okay.
But okay, right here, the needle drop. Okay, like the voices kick in. The fact that they didn't have something like that in the new Star Wars will always be one of my biggest like anger points. When Rise of Skywalker, right? Rey and Ren on the Death Star is actually a good sequence, except that it has no music. Like, it needed a bombastic Duel of the Fates soundtrack, and it didn't.
I mean, based on my feelings of it, based on my feelings of the fight in general, it didn't. They should have done no music because it didn't deserve any. Like, I'm sorry to say.
I like the visual. The water's dynamic. It didn't have the best choreography.
But they
It
fight
has
like
some
children. They fight like children.
Yeah, okay. I'm not going to argue on that. I didn't hate it, I guess I should say. There were things about it that I actually did like, but it needed this music right here.
Yeah.
So, real quick, one thing I wanted to point out at the very beginning of the fight, know what Obi-Wan did? It was foreshadowing. He jumped over Darth Maul to fight.
Because he needed the high ground.
Yeah.
I always loved
But
the.
he was testing the waters. He jumped over him once to see if he could do it. And now he knows he can.
Oh, man. But there's one particular scene that people like to mock Liam Neeson.
Trailer shot right here.
The classic. Not even just trailer shot. Like, they used that for trailer shots for freaking Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
But Liam Neeson, he's hacking at him like from the side, like he's swinging a baseball bat. But that's because he was like trained in broadsword combat. It's just like, yeah, I'm swinging a two-handed sword.
It's so weird that all of a sudden the droids like kind of like are using cover. They've never been shown to do that before.
That's interesting. One thing I'll comment about the Qui-Gon broadsword thing. One thing I appreciate about, I'll say, current Star Wars, because I'll put Ahsoka in this, is, you know, Ray Stevenson, right? His character was Liam Neeson's size, and he had a bigger lightsaber, and he was swinging it like a two-handed blade. And so I could see Qui-Gon being bigger, taking heavier, bigger swings because he's a bigger man.
Yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Well, I feel so bad. I'm forgetting the name of the stunt coordinator because he's so cool. And he's the guy responsible for all the spinning because he's just like, this is a big space fantasy. It doesn't need to be logical. It needs to be cool. These are people who have extrasensory perception that allow them to understand how time is flowing around their things. They don't need to fight like an actual swordsman. Let them be crazy.
Oh yeah,
And
Nick Gillard. Nick Gillard was the stunt
Gillard,
coordinator.
thank you, Nick Gillard. I saw his interview with Star Wars Theory about modern Star Wars
Star Wars
combat,
Theory.
and he was salty.
Oh.
Well, I mean, people know at this point I'm not a big fan of the sequels in general. I find almost all the choreography for lightsaber combat in the sequels to be awful. I really don't like it.
I actually thought
know
that
that
some of the choreography for the throne room scene in Last Jedi was quite good, but they left in really bad artifacting in the background that kind of made it seem really stupid.
Where that guy could have killed Rey but didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The stuntman react sequence I saw to that whole sequence just ruined it forever for me.
It did with me also. The one that was actually weirdly good didn't even involve lightsabers till the end, but it was the sticks between Luke and Rey. They actually have some good movements in there.
Okay. Yeah,
and it's like, where the hell was that? You know? Like, give me more. There's so many things. So many things.
And see, this sequence, it is very choreographed, but it's just very cool, and so it's okay. I feel like if you're gonna go,
this is the first time we'd seen anything like this.
Oh yeah,
and sadly, we haven't seen any. I mean, aside from Revenge of the Sith, we haven't seen anything this good since.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. There's some really good stuff in the animated. I think that some of the stuff from Ahsoka really does deserve to be mentioned, and even though it's divisive, there are some great moments in the final duel in Obi-Wan.
Oh yeah,
or Kenobi.
No, I agree. I agree with that, but how much for me the Obi-Wan show? How much do we care about that because we care about the characters? We have so much history with Vader and Obi-Wan. They could have, I mean, you couldn't have gotten away with episode 4 choreography, but there's so much of a backstory between the two of them. It's so emotionally charged. This, we know nothing about Darth Maul. We know next to nothing about Qui-Gon Jinn, but yet most of us hold Duel of the Fates up as one of the best fight scenes in Star Wars, aside from Revenge of the Sith, but that's because of the backstory, the history.
I actually think that it's better. I think that the one moment later with Obi-Wan and Maul, like the final exchange, is the best lightsaber moment in the films.
From a purely technical point of view, you mean, or
fun, exhilarating?
Yeah,
because that was just boom.
Yeah. I think I would almost agree with that because my personal, I think that the final sequence between Vader and Luke in Return of the Jedi, when you're like panning that panning shot with the stairway in between them and the music, and it's just it's such a powerful moment. To me, that is the number one lightsaber scene in all of Star Wars. But from a purely just like choreography and fighting point of view, I mean, it's not amazing choreography. It's just an amazing moment. And
No, of course. And I would say the same thing with the Obi-Wan scene. Like I'm not a fan of that show because of some of the choices, but that final episode redeems everything about that show for me.
No, just a little
Because
side note.
of-
I hate all of this happening on screen right now. I hate this so much.
Yeah,
it's so
it's
stupid.
awful.
Yeah.
It's so bad. Sorry, if anybody
You're
watching,
totally
like,
right.
are you going to talk about what's actually happening in the movie? There's your
No.
commentary for all of what's happened in the last 3 or 4 minutes. It's awful.
This isn't the worst. I think it could have been handled differently. Could have been handled better. Having a face-to-face between Padme and the villains and everything, I think, was necessary.
Oh no, it's yeah. Sorry, I was talking and then they switched to this. Oh, it's the Gungan stuff where he was like with the tank and the falling and just all the Jar Jar-ness
know,
at the
right?
end. It's
Like-
so bad. It's so bad.
All
Why
I
did
know,
you need that?
all I know is Anakin and R2 just got hit in the Naboo starfighter, and I'm gonna translate for R2. R2 said, "Move your ass, dude."
Oh
Right?
gosh.
He's like, step on it, mother.
Oh
Well, R2D2
that's the,
has the
Family
foulest
Guy.
mause in all of Star Wars
Yeah, isn't
He
that
does, they have to
because
bleep out
everything he says is bleeped out.
bleeped out? But to say, isn't he in the Family Guy parodies? He's like black, right?
Yeah.
he's,
Yeah,
He's
Freaking,
great.
Cleveland.
Isn't he Cleveland? He's Cleveland.
That's
Yeah.
right. Oh man. Okay, so this I mean,
Yeah,
this is
right
really
there.
good.
For speed. For speed.
Boom. Like run, move your just
he is running.
run faster.
Can you not plunge your lightsaber into that thing and turn it off?
You could probably get a wall, but that's obviously protecting something or a disbursement of energy somehow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what does that do to the
yeah.
whole city?
The reaction shot that Kenobi gives here in a second is so good. I just like it's a guttural scream. I really find it satisfying.
I found it satisfying because they didn't do anything super over dramatic with when he was stabbed. It didn't like go into slow motion. It
Yeah.
had the reaction shots
Yeah.
and then he just falls.
Yeah.
And I think that was just kind of
You-
perfect.
And you know what I love about it too is we don't know we know some about the Jedi, but not a ton. And so when Obi-Wan got pissed, I know for me, I went, oh, he's tapping into the dark side a little bit. It's some anger there. Oh, okay. It's about to be on, because Luke does the same thing to defeat Vader. And so I was like, oh, Obi-Wan's about to whoop some booty here.
Yeah. No, when Obi-Wan, when the shield goes down and Obi-Wan goes in, there's the really quick back and forth that they have. It is that what you're talking about, Zach? That's just like choreographic wise, you think some of the best that they've ever done? Because
Like after he just before he gets
yeah,
pushed down the pit. But
No,
also
I-
the thing between Qui-Gon and him was also very good.
yeah.
Now,
it
one of the
was
things
good.
I just realized is one of the things that they changed with the special editions was the Nemoidian's eyes. The eyes are all digital now and they blink.
Mm. This
Oh, no,
this sequence.
The silence between this is so just
not
let's
only,
go.
not only the silence, but the speed. This is, I think, the fastest they go right here. The quick.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And it's
That,
not sped
right.
up at all. This right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. This is Star Wars has
I love
never
it.
had
It hasn't
a
topped it.
quick. It really hasn't. At least not from a pure choreography point of view. I completely agree with that.
He jumped over him again. That's twice.
I actually am going to disagree with you a little bit right there, Brian. I think that in terms of choreography, there are actually moments in Revenge of the Sith that are better in terms of that choreography.
I agree.
But it doesn't look as good because it's blue on blue, dude on dude in that same exact way, where this is angel on devil, red on blue.
It might be.
It's more
Duel of the
dynamic.
Fates.
It looks better.
I'm just trying to imagine, even in Revenge of the Sith, that moment where Obi-Wan does the over the head block, then back around to the front block, backs, and it just like that whole. It's. I probably need to watch
good.
Revenge of the Sith again because it's been years.
Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
you're
Tell you
done.
what, let's do it in a couple weeks.
We probably should, yeah. That was really good
Yeah,
timing
let's
for the
do that.
shields, by the way.
And suddenly it's first-person shooter. And he just accidentally
Now
fires
this is pod racing.
quantum torpedoes, full spread.
I do
I
appreciate
actually
that was
sat
a.
there.
Good.
No, go for it.
I was gonna say I appreciate that it was clearly a physical model being blown up. I appreciate that, and that it actually mirrored the in Return of the Jedi when they killed the main power generator, and it was like the large kind of sphere was like falling down, and the explosion is a very similar design.
Oh, that's true.
One other thing I like, it just dawned on me, the ship kind of reminds me of what the shield looks like for them to get through in Rogue One. Like the shield generator
it very
around
much does.
Scarif.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I love that was a physical model. They just straight up built a miniature and blew it up.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And, they Avengered it. Look at that. And on the back of that one in front of him, the markings for number 1138.
Oh, 1138. Nice. I never noticed that.
Yeah, a whole bunch of 1138s hidden throughout Star Wars.
No.
So block number 1138.
So what do you think of this coming up? Just the jump, the way he beats Darth Maul.
I'm okay with it.
It works. For me, I have the curse of knowledge. There's this whole thing where Obi-Wan had actually gone through his night trials and failed them, and was considering leaving the Order because he wasn't powerful enough. And there was this like whole build in it when they tell the story from Obi-Wan's perspective in some of the books, and it's like really satisfying that way. But I wish that there had been like one more exchange, one more just do boom. But
yeah, because Darth Maul did seem a little bit like, what just happened, and then just got hit.
So one thing I remember way back when. So this is how much of a Star Wars nerd I am. My brother and I they came out with like a Star Wars like D&D type game, and I remember talking about wisdom and intelligence and like describing the difference, and they used Duel of the Fates, that jump over, and they talked about it based on the different checks to pass, and that Darth Maul was this dexterous, amazing like warrior, if you will. He wasn't necessarily super strong in the Force per se, like thinking of what's coming next. It was all instinct. And so Obi-Wan beat him because he was planning something, and Darth Maul didn't pass that insight check. And because of that, that's how Obi-Wan beat him. And so it described it very kind of technically that way. And I always have held on to that.
It's so funny because I think I might have actually read the exact same thing, because to reveal the extent of my nerdiness, not I'm trying to compete, by the way, just the extent, I ran one of those games for 8 months. I was actually the game master for 8 months.
You must have read the exact same thing I did, dude. That's great.
Yeah. But I love that, because that is also part of it, is Darth Maul had vast untapped Force potential. But he was trained as a Sith assassin because that was the only way that Palpatine was able to keep him while being the apprentice of Darth Plagueis. He was an assassin, not an apprentice. But he was going to be his apprentice because Palpatine could sense his vast power. But he didn't get to build his Force side enough. So Obi-Wan's strength in the Force, but weaker combatant, trumped Maul's greater combatant, but weaker Force training.
Yeah, I
love Yoda.
I don't remember when I first read into this, but it was I was just on and this was full of like Wikipedia like night of just like reading articles, and went like into a deep dive on lightsaber styles, and was getting into the form that Qui-Gon used, being more acrobatic and needing space, and how like it actually, that's why he, I mean, at least according to the article, I have no idea if this is canon or just somebody's, but that, and Obi-Wan seeing him, like he switched his form and perfected the form. I forget the number, but the form that's like mostly defensive, and what Obi-Wan was like,
Form 3,
and then Sarisu. Yeah, but like getting into all that and how the forms and how this film influenced the forms, and why Obi-Wan had a chance against Anakin was because he was so good at Form 3, and Anakin was like a mixture of 3 and 5, I think.
If Anakin's was like sheer like power, just I'm gonna beat you with
Well, I just
beat you into submission.
I loved that there was like a reason why Qui-Gon basically was at a disadvantage once he was in a small room and didn't have room. Like he was more effective out in the big area.
He wasn't able to create space for himself to take bigger swings.
Yeah, and I love that kind. So that's where I hate when like magic is over-explained. And sorry, I don't hate. I prefer magic being a little more mysterious. But when it comes to that kind of stuff, like how you fight,
you'll eat that up all day.
And it being very like thought out and on purpose, that I really enjoy.
Yeah,
I love being able to. Go ahead.
Go for it. Go for it.
Oh, just that side shot of Obi-Wan in the robes and Anakin, and then Palpatine, and I always would cover the top half of Palpatine's face by a robe just to see his jawline.
Yeah,
because we know, right?
Fun thing about this,
we know that it was The Apprentice.
Yeah. This sound. It's the Emperor's theme made fun.
Really?
Slow it down and chant it. It's the Emperor's theme from Return of the Jedi.
Well, he did just become Chancellor.
What is the glowing ball trophy thing supposed to be?
No idea. It's a glowing ball.
The World Cup.
Just like Cup. It's so weird.
It is.
That dude, he needs some ointment for that scar of his.
He does. He's actually the subject of a 3-parter in the Clone Wars that ends up in his death. He's a dick.
That's right. He's like, no, okay. Who was the Jedi like didn't care about clones?
Pong Krell.
He's getting clones killed all the time.
Yeah.
That was a good couple episode arc.
Dude, Anakin with the Riz, man.
Everyone just have the same haircut.
If he had just been like 2 or 3 years older, where she's just like, yes, I'm 15, and this 11-year-old boy. Let's keep an eye on that freaking groomer.
Now, I will say that. So this was the other part of we just had that epic Duel of the Fates, and then this, the exact same end credit music, and just right now, like I'm literally smiling. It's every time I hear this sequence, it just takes me back to some of the best memories I have. I'm staring up. You guys have seen pictures in my office. I have full-size reproductions of the original trilogy posters hanging over my desk. I love them so much, and there's so many things about them that I love, and the music and the sound is so good. And then going right into Duel of Fates here, it's just like, all right. Mm-hmm. So that's where, for all the criticisms I have, and I do think overall this is not a great film, but there's still so much Star Wars in it that I can't help but to also like it. I think I'm contradicting myself, but I think it makes sense if you know what I'm talking about.
No, I totally understand, because in my opinion, this movie is as good of a film as Titanic.
Okay.
Titanic's storyline and a lot of its acting and stuff like that is bullshit. It is about horrible people being horrible people, and half of the dialogue is Jack Rose, and shit. Literally, they say it like 110 times in the movie.
But that sinking
it is a
sequence.
Technical achievement. But it is a technical achievement beyond anything. This was the same type of thing. This is an unparalleled technical achievement for its time, while also being this massive, just cultural touchstone, while also having a confusing story, really stilted acting, and really iffy directing. And it's just like, I don't think it's the worst Star Wars movie.
No,
I think that I think that I would rate it as the 4th worst Star Wars movie. And so it's like right there, lower middle for me.
Have we ever officially on this podcast each given our rankings? I'm just curious. Would we want to save that, or would we want? I mean, yeah, just feature-length films.
Oh, Oh man.
I'm-
That way
I'm-
we can change our minds by the end of this little.
Actually, no, I like that. Hindsight, we should have done it before this even started, but that's okay.
I'd like to if you guys don't mind.
Do it,
Yeah.
do it.
Okay, are we going like best to worst or worst to best?
Whatever you feel it needs to be done there, Brian. This is your
All right.
idea. You're gonna carry it out. Let's go.
Okay. Now this is with two caveats: personal preference, and for me, story trumps technical proficiency as a film. And I'll start because the first
Okay.
one, to surprise of nobody on this panel, The Last Jedi is the bottom for me because of the story. Rise of Skywalker is a worse film in almost every other way, but I still rate it just a tiny bit higher because it is closer to the type of storytelling I like in Star Wars. Then right after that is Attack of the Clones, and then after Attack of the Clones is this. After this, probably would be Solo. Then probably Force Awakens, then Revenge of the Sith for me. Then I gotta go to original trilogy because then Rogue One, then Return of the Jedi, then Star Wars, then Empire for me.
Okay.
Empire's your best. Okay.
It is, but honestly, the entire original trilogy, I will defend Return of the Jedi all day long. I love that film, and actually, the first Star Wars, I think you could successfully make an argument for either Star Wars or Empire, because Star Wars, despite being cheesy, is such an accomplishment and has so many amazing things to it. But Empire by a hair for me.
Patrick.
Oh goodness.
I mean, I'll go.
Worst to best. Yeah. Worst to best. Yeah. Last Jedi. It's not even close. It's so far below. And again, it doesn't have to be the most beautiful movie. It doesn't. If the story's good, you get a little pass on some of the, we'll say, technical or graphical abilities. Okay, so let me think. So Last Jedi. Oh geez. I should have been thinking.
Do you want me to go and you compile?
Yes, actually, yes. If you have yours dialed in, that'd be great.
Worst is Attack of the Clones.
Okay,
It has to be.
that's
Last
totally
Jedi,
fair. Totally
its
fair.
story, Last Jedi's story is garbage, but it has good acting and technical proficiency.
Totally
it's
fair.
the same thing with Rise of Skywalker. Attack of the Clones it's just crap. There are actually things about it that I do like. I will enjoy watching it because there's nostalgia attached. It is the weakest film in every single area in terms of its look, its feel, its writing, its acting, all of it. It's like, yeah. But then
It just didn't personally
for me,
offend me.
it's-
That's the problem. That's the only reason it saves it for me. Go ahead.
and then Rise of Skywalker,
Mhm.
then Last Jedi, and I
Rise
would
of
watch
Skywalker.
Rise of
I got
Skywalker.
questions.
I would watch Rise of Skywalker before Last Jedi. Last Jedi, I have a certain amount of empathy for because they wanted to do things a little differently and just screwed it up. The Rise of
Who's
Skywalker
they?
was reactionary garbage.
Mm.
They had every opportunity to sit there and look at what they did wrong, look at what they did right, and fix it.
Couldn't you say that about Last Jedi too? They had an opportunity to look at what was done, and I mean,
But the thing that they were doing with Last Jedi is that this was our chance. This was the chance. This is what kind of the production team was thinking. The director. This is our chance to do something different. And they went too different. They went too stupid. They went too cheesy, and all kinds of other writing issues with that movie that we won't go into right now. Rise of Skywalker could have taken the hand that they were dealt and made something really good, and they actively chose reactionary nostalgia bait garbage.
Yeah.
Then after Last Jedi, it's our lists are going to look very similar from here. It is going to go episode 1, then it's going to go Solo. Here's where you're going to get mad at me, Brian.
Go for it. No, that's totally fine.
Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Revenge of the Sith. Sorry,
Really?
not Revenge of the Sith. Rogue One, Revenge of the Sith, original Star Wars, Empire.
Okay. I don't get mad at you for that. Return of the Jedi has legitimate issues. I just still very much love it. I like it so much that it overcomes the objective issues it has. So no, you don't. That's totally fine.
I totally understand that.
Yeah,
I totally understand.
Your list is perfectly fair.
I might actually swap original Star Wars and Empire. I love Empire. I think it is the better film, but I love the original so much.
Yeah.
I've been wanting to watch it again recently, actually.
Yeah.
But it's like Rogue One is so good, and Revenge of the Sith does so many things right. There's like 3 scenes in that movie that if you could just bump up and improve the dialogue and acting in those scenes, it's just not a masterpiece, but it's like a 9 out of 10 almost.
You're breaking
But
my heart.
It does have those yeah, pretty much. And then you just, I Return of the Jedi. It's the Ewoks. It's also the curse of knowledge. Is that what Lucas wanted to do with it, and the choices he was talked out of in order to keep the brand alive and sell more things to kids. Like, there's the potential of what could have been.
Yeah.
I forgot Force Awakens in my list. Force Awakens goes just above Solo.
Okay.
Yeah.
So please don't be mad at me, guys. I can't remember the name of the movie we just watched, so I can't write it down.
Phantom Menace?
Thank you.
The
I
Phantom
couldn't think of
Menace?
the word.
Star Wars guy.
What? Yeah, like this.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
You're off the podcast.
7, 8, 9, 10. All right, I've got 11. I've got them all. Okay.
All right, hit us.
Sorry, guys. I had to physically write them down to conceptualize. Last Jedi. We don't need to go into why. We know why. Again, while I can appreciate them trying to do things differently, I think they chose the wrong franchise to do it with, and the wrong time in the franchise to do it. You know, and I think that's where I go. Rian Johnson, Knives Out, the Knives Out movies are fun. Other stuff he's done is fun. I just think he didn't show enough respect to the medium. He didn't show enough respect to the franchise. You know, and at a certain point, like, kind of back to Sam Witwer, right? I mentioned him so many times. I'm doing it again, and it's not even a list about him. But he does it for his love. Rian Johnson did what he did because he wanted to make his name great, not Star Wars. And to me, that's not okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, right. That's how I look at it.
I don't disagree at all. I'm not saying I disagree.
He's going to be remembered either way for that, right? He's going to be remembered long after we forget about a bunch of other people, regardless, right? But okay, so Last Jedi, Attack of the Clones. It's funny. I had big nostalgia glasses on for Attack of the Clones, and then I thought about it more, and I was like, "What are you doing, dude?"
It's rough.
Rise of Skywalker, I think, and actually, Zach, this is just a kind of actually a question for both of you. So I know you said it was kind of reactionary, and I tend to agree with you. I look at it like JJ went, well, I've got this timetable. I need to come up with something, and I need to tie up these last 3 movies that are now a dumpster fire, and I got to tie it up. How can I tie it up? Right? To me, JJ was given an impossible task.
Oh, I agree. I'm not actually blaming JJ for that.
No, of course.
I'm wholeheartedly blaming Kathleen Kennedy and Disney needing to keep a shitty timetable. Delay it a year.
I would agree with that, right? But I guess here's where I go. So I guess what is the better choice here? Should they have delayed it and not put anything out and just let it die and do something new? Or
no.
Like,
you take the time to write and put it into a production.
JJ
that
goes to
respects and maybe build on what because they also had to deal with the death of Carrie Fisher, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Build on what was established build on what was good in The Last Jedi, because there were things in The Last Jedi that were genuinely good. Build on that slowly, take your time, and really just put a heart and love into it, that you know that what you're coming out with is good, because they didn't have a completed script when they started shooting.
Yeah.
They didn't have, which is the same problem with Attack of the Clones.
Well, and this is where you need somebody who has both the vision and the business sense to be able to walk into, whoever's running the office there at Disney, if it's Kathleen or somebody else. But you need somebody who can go in and say, if you don't delay this by a year and give us time to figure this out, the damage done to this brand will cost you so much more money than delaying this thing by a year that you have no idea, which is exactly what happened. Star Wars is still recovering from the damage done by that tree.
Trying to recover, and it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And really, it's
1 step forward,
2 steps back.
Yeah,
100%.
Because of 100%. Kenobi's failure and the Acolyte's failure.
Yeah, it's frustrating because it's and I mean, if Disney had not. If people had stayed hyped, I mean, how many MCU films in a row were they able to do and have everybody just lose their minds over them because they were in Star Wars killed that in 5 movies.
They could have had that same feeling going through the sequel trilogy, but they kept the timetable instead of keeping the fan base happy.
Yeah, totally agree. It was so short-sighted.
Yeah. Okay, so then I've got. This seems bad. Force Awakens after Rise, or before Rise. Solo. So I like. It's tough because I really like Solo because I like the Millennium Falcon as a character. I know that's silly,
did you say that you have Solo by itself?
I see.
No, have you listed Phantom Menace yet? Have you?
I'm about to.
Okay, I was like, okay, so you're putting Solo and Force Awakens below Phantom. Okay,
behind Phantom Menace.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure. Go ahead.
And here's why. Regardless of story, the last Star Wars we had was 16 years prior, and was good. And to me, like Phantom Menace basically had to kind of jumpstart it again, kind of like Force Awakens, but I feel like Force Awakens, I do like JJ as a person. I feel like it was a New Hope 2.0, right? It was, to me, they could have kept a lot of like some of the similarities, but it felt too same. Oh, not a Death Star that can kill one planet, a Death Star that can kill all of them. Like, it's like,
very much
I'm not going to give this ship 1 laser. I'm going to give it 30 lasers. Like,
you don't have to sell me on Force Awakens having issues. I know that Zach likes it a lot, and that's fine. I
wholeheartedly understand those issues. Those are my complaints as well.
And we still have never been given a reason to like Rey. Not really.
Like Daisy Ridley's pretty.
No, but as a character, she didn't earn her place.
She never did. They did not sit down and make sure they had a scene with Han, Luke, and Leia together before they killed Han is unforgivable to me.
Yeah, I would agree. So then I've got Solo after Force Awakens. I said that, Phantom Menace. And then I've got Rogue One next.
Okay.
It's tough because I really like Rogue One. I like the character of K2SO. I like what they've done with, arguably in the last, Andor is the most successful thing they've had in the last however long.
Critically, yeah.
Because Andor, I want to say, came out after season 2 of Mandalorian.
It did. In fact, I think it came out after season 3 of Mandalorian.
So Mandalorian season 3 was not a success for me.
I thought it was better than people gave it credit for, but I get where you're coming from.
Compared to season 1 and 2, it was flat. But anyway, we're not talking about the series.
They also switched the main character.
Hey, the main character is now the Darksaber, just so you know.
The main
It's
character
not
is
actually.
the Mandalorian. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the same Mandalorian. I'm sorry.
You shut up.
All my things.
Hey, from a certain point
gosh.
of view. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, goodness. Oh, okay, so what do you have left?
After,
Go ahead.
I've got Revenge of the Sith,
Okay.
A New Hope, Return, and Empire.
Really? You put Return ahead of New
the
Hope?
OG got to be. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, so.
No, that I
Here's
mean,
the
like
tough part.
I wouldn't have guessed that. I respect it. I just wouldn't have guessed it. Go for it.
Do you feel a
Here's-
ghost
here-
hand on your trachea right now?
Right. Zach 3D printed a model of me, and he's stabbing it with pins right now.
A little voodoo magic.
Yeah. No. The reason Returns ahead is I put blinders on, and I remember I go back to the first time I watched Return. I don't go watch Return. So unfortunately, the sequel trilogy screwed up Return of the Jedi because Anakin didn't really bring balance to the Force, not really, right? And it took Rey doing it, and so like that to me lowers Return of the Jedi, but that sequel trilogy, sorry, is not in my head canon. That is Luke's bad dream. And I would have been acceptable with them doing that with Revenge of the Sith. Instead of doing a whole movie, it could have been a 30-minute short and where Luke has a bad dream and wakes up and goes, "Oh man," and drinks some blue milk, the end. Dun, dun, and then play the fanfare. Let's go.
You said
been
with
okay with
Revenge
that.
of the Sith or Rise of Skywalker?
Rise of Skywalker. Sorry.
Okay. I was going to say,
Yeah,
that's actually kind of what
sorry
they
about that.
did with Revenge of the Sith with the character of Jason Solo in the novels. Okay, I'm not going down that.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, and Empire, obviously, just storytelling, the reveal, and I think back to like some of the behind the scenes stuff where they had to figure out how to put objects not in space and make them look okay on film because of Hoth. Like,
Yeah. Oh,
Just
the
the amount
technical
of
achievement
work
that
they
Hoth
had to-
was.
100%, and the introduction of Yoda. Like, you thought Obi-Wan was Mr. Badass, and then you meet Yoda, and you're like, whoa, right? And it basically it's a highlight reel of all the good things, right? And Darth Vader blocking blaster bolts with Han, like from Han. Ugh. Like, that's when I went, oh crap, that's when the Darth Vader recurring nightmares happened for me. Funny enough, you ready for this? This is a little behind the scenes for me, but I used to have a recurring nightmare. So there was an old, really like D tier movie called Tremors.
Oh,
With Kevin
yeah.
Bacon.
I
and
love Tremors.
Fred something or other. Yeah. Okay. So do you guys remember the store in the very first one where like the thing gets underneath and is knocking over the like the
Ice machine.
the aisles,
The freezer.
But it knocks over the aisles as like the kid's trying to like climb across them. In my mind, I'm that kid. But it's not that store. It's like Safeway, and I'm jumping across aisle while Darth Vader is cutting through aisles, separating them with the Force. Like, that was the recurring nightmare for me. Like,
Okay,
I don't know why I
chase. I dig it.
yeah. Oh, dude.
So you
Anyway,
you dreamt of the end of Rogue One, but in Safeway as a kid.
I could just
Kind of.
picture the
Fantastic.
manager of Safeway. Excuse me, sir. Ha! No lightsabers in the store, please, sir.
Oh goodness. Well, I actually love the fact that we all have slightly different. Like this would be a boring podcast if we all completely agreed.
Right.
And I
Absolutely.
do think there are some objective things about Star Wars that just are and aren't good and but they're definitely there's room of like we had different experiences. There's different things to us
course.
that elevate in priority. That take something up higher and lower, and that's the fun of this. So I do think that as much as we're all on similar pages about the sequel trilogy and its issues, just to different degrees. Some of us feel more strongly than others,
Yeah,
and
of
that's
course.
fine. But I like that, but I also, for anybody listening to this point, we're about to hit 3 hours, so thank you so much for sticking with us. I do think the level of discourse about this online gets ridiculous. The amount of just like nastiness and like just genuine like hatred that gets thrown around over this is just like, it's embarrassing, because passionate arguing about fictional things is literally what we're doing, but people take it too far, and that's where it's it's just like, calm down, people, because I love Star Wars. It is near and dear. It is, you know, the importance of good storytelling I could rant about for a long time, but at the end of the day, it is a fictional story that we can all enjoy together. and I do think that I do wish the online discourse would just drop a notch. As much as I am totally somebody who has occasionally participated in live conversations that got quite heated, it's just like, sometimes I read YouTube comment sections, I'm just like, wow, you people need to calm down. But anyways,
Yeah,
I don't know why I felt like I needed to throw that in, but I wanted to.
And any person that sends death threats to actors or people in the production over these things deserves to be like put in a hole for a week until they learn to behave.
Unexcusable. I did not like the character of Rose, but anybody who said or did anything against the actress, and I forget her name, but you deserve to get
Kelly Marie Tran.
Yeah, you deserve something bad to happen to you, because there's no place for going after. Now, if an actor says something dumb, you know, just like in a press tour, and you're like, all right, that was dumb, like that's fine. But anything beyond that, going after them, like, you know, harassing them, death threats, you know, being just a total just asshole to somebody online because you didn't like the character they played in the movie, is you're not helping anything. You're making us all look worse. You're making everything worse, and you are a bad human being if you think that's okay.
I riled up the Brian.
Sorry, but we should
Release
as much as
Brian.
So I totally think we should revisit our lists as we go through these. But
Yes,
this was a lot of fun. We should wrap this up as we tick towards 3 hours. But we will be back next week with what we all agree is the worst of the prequels, which I'm happy about. Attack of the Clones.
Attack of the Clones, which they don't even attack. Okay,
don't worry.
Rough.
That's not true. At the end, they do.
No, they're defensively responding of the clones.
The defensive response of the clones.
Around the survivors, the
goodness.
perimeter create of the clones.
Republic Commando is a really good Star Wars game, by the way.
Oh, it is a really good Star Wars game.
All right. Well, good night,
All right,
everybody.
guys.
Good
Good night. See you guys.
There's doors and corners, kid. If you don't clear the room, if you don't come in slow,